That was uncomfortably long. I love that. Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome here. Speak Up Monday in the garden here at Tropical Nomad. Episode 493. Yes, 493. Crazy. Episode 500, November the 3rd, by the way. Now, today, I have so many different questions. I have so many different words and ways to describe it. But we're going to be talking about humanity. We're going to be talking about education. We're going to talk about AI, Bitcoin, community. It is a beautiful episode which will stretch you, maybe test you, but I think you'll find how love fits into all of this. It's phenomenal. And as a good friend, mutual friend sitting right next to us said in a message to me, which I did pass on to Roger, he said to me, something like this, if there's one guy who could save the planet, it would be Roger. Yeah, a round of applause for that, right? Yeah. So no pressure, Roger. But tonight, you're probably going to get some signposts and some clues and some reasoning of why that is the case and why I believe it too. So permit me to read from the good old-fashioned piece of paper. So tonight, I know, it was like, can't you get an iPad or something? Look, don't start me, all right? Limited budget. Genius Future Summit 2025 is a gathering of visionaries, innovators, and entrepreneurs shaping the future of education, finance, and community, hosted by Roger James Hamilton. I like the way you have three names just like me. Good on you, mate. And Genius Group. This global entrepreneur education movement spans 200 countries with 5.8 million students, and is a publicly listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and the only one in Bali to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So Roger, Futurist, New York Times Bestselling Author, and founder of the Genius Group, he created the Wealth Dynamics Profiling System, which has been used by 1.7 million entrepreneurs around the world. Yes, and was a founding chairman of Green School Bali. Those who are here in Bali will know exactly why that's quite significant. Over the last 25 years in Bali, he has built and exited multiple companies across publishing, tech, hospitality, and education. And as you heard from one fellow, he's bought a few companies as well. Founded Genius U, the world's leading entrepreneur ed tech platform. Taken 2 companies public, including Genius Group, on the New York Stock Exchange in 2022, as I mentioned before. Nice fly in the eye. It's okay, we continue. Written 5 acclaimed books, including The Millionaire Master Plan, an NYT, New York Times, and USA Today bestseller. Today, I know. Roger's looking saying, "Is that my intro?" Almost. We're halfway through, maybe a third. So Roger and Genius Groups, you crack me up, are teaching the ABCs of future AI, Bitcoin, and community with a bold Bitcoin treasury strategy targeting 10,000 BTC. 10,000 BTC. Roger continues to pioneer at the intersection of finance, entrepreneurship, and education. Now, partly what all of you are here for as well is that the Genius Future Summit features global leaders like Stephen Bartlett, founder of Flight Story and Third Web, host of the Diary of a CEO podcast, Seftin Amos, the Bitcoin Standard, Sergey Solonin, founder of Nuanu Creative City, which are headlining that event, which is on October 2nd and October 3rd. And finally, as many of you may or may not know me, but it's only been 493 episodes. I'm the host and founder, Robert Ian Bonnick, founder SpeakuP Monday, Indonesia's #1 entrepreneurship and social impact in-person and live stream talk show, approaching 500 episodes, as I mentioned. Been voted the #1 change maker in Bali, top 10 best motivational speaker in South Asia, that's CEO Insights Asia 2025, founder of PT Career Life Group, Gateway to Indonesia for Business. And look, through RIB, SpeakuP Monday, Monday and tourism architect. We've been recognized by the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, Bali Tourism Bodies, Forbes Business Council, Founder Institute, and Startup Grind. That was so long. Round of applause, please. I know.
I could have done that intro for you. That would have been better.
You know what? Next time, you know what? From now on the show, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to intro the speaker, and then we'll get the speaker to intro me. You know what? Let's shake on that. Thank you very much indeed. Love it. So look, Roger, look, again, what our good friend said, that this is probably one of the guys who could probably save the world, is a huge, bold statement. And again, as I mentioned before, through this episode of Speak Up Monday, we're going to be talking about, Roger's background, his past, his present, with all of the projects you're doing now, and obviously the future, what that holds, and how we watching online or here in person can also contribute to that future. But maybe the first question that comes up, I've had this opportunity to kind of be shadowing you in some way, shape, or form over the last few weeks, you and your team. And what I see from the team, one person has been there for 20 years, another person for 10 years, one person for 5 years, another person just started. Now, one person to be at a company for 20 years, working with one entity, one person, that strikes me. What I've also seen...
Well, actually our entire company is only 20 years old. So Shah, who mentioned that, she was employee number 2. Employee number 1 is also with us. Like the whole thing's a journey. And Shah's now lived in multiple countries, now moving to Bali. And Penny, who was number 1, she's moved all over the world and traveled with us as well. And I think this is one of the most interesting things that maybe we'll have a chance to talk about. So much, I think, of the West is thinking about how to be 10 times bigger or 100 times bigger. The real question should be how to last 10 times longer or 100 times longer, right? How do you leave a legacy? And if you think about that with relationships, you can't really go wrong, right? Yeah. I mean, can I just, I know you had a question coming from it, but can I share how we met each other? This is actually very funny. But by the way, I just want to say one thing about a few comments already, which is like, oh, Roger's going to save the world. Look, just to be clear, this world does not need saving. The world's absolutely fine. It's the humans who need the saving, right? So I know we're going to get onto that, but the world will be absolutely fine with or without us. But what I want to share is the moment we met, which was in the last month, right? It was like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. We were at ProEd, which is the school at Nwanu. I was meeting up with Lana, who founded ProEd, and we had just taken the majority ownership of the school so that we can now, build the entire curriculum, lifelong learning from early learning. Angie here, who runs Green School, she starts with kids 3 years old. Do you know how you educate a child to be entrepreneurial at 3 years old? You educate the parents, right? That's how you do it. And so the whole idea that parents have to go back to thinking about what it is to be a human when they have their kids, and then all the way primary school, secondary school, all the way to adult learning. And if there's anyone who needs to be re-educated today, it's absolutely the adults. This is the journey we're on. And you were there having a conversation with Lana about totally different things because you're a parent there at the school, and I see Robert, and Robert's like, oh, Roger, do you know this person? Do you know that person? I'm going to connect you here, I'm going to connect you there. And we had just decided to run the summit. Believe it or not, it's only been a month that we said we're going to do the summit because we're going to be launching Genius City. So I'm like, well, we better connect with everybody. And it's like, you seem to know a lot of people. He goes, yeah, I know a lot of people. I'm like, would you want to come work with us? And the next minute, like, Robert's coming in, consulting, working with us. And I think that's what it is to ignite your genius. Like, ignite your genius is the moment you meet someone, you already ignite theirs. I think that's one of the most powerful things, which is where we get stuck. So much of the lack mindset isn't about the fact that we don't have enough. It's that we're looking at the wrong part of the candle, right? I mean, like, if you just think you're the wax, well, first of all, you can't see straight, but secondly, why would you give wax to someone else if you're going to end up with less wax, right? But if you're the flame, where it costs you nothing to light another candle, and every day you're just going around lighting candles, you're just igniting the genius of others. So you ignited my genius with that. I'm like, wow, okay, like, you're doing something that is way beyond what I can do in terms of connecting with people. I'm doing certain things which actually needs people to be connecting. Let's work together. And I think that those kind of like divine timing fits. Like Buckminster Fuller has this saying for this, it's called lag. If the lag time between your thought and your manifestation starts shrinking, it means you're on the right path, right? If it starts going longer and longer and longer into months or years, you're absolutely going the wrong way. But if it starts shrinking to the point when the moment you think, you know what, I need someone who can do this, and next minute someone shows up, you know you're on the right path, right? And so you're part of the canary in the coal mine when it comes to synchronicity in the way that we met. And if it wasn't for those kind of connections, we most likely would be running the Future Summit sometime next year instead of in a week's time.
You know, like, thank you for starting us off. You know, the Genius Code, right? I mean, as you know, we talk about the Genius Group. Tell us about the Genius Code, because I think what you've kind of segued straight into, which is beautiful, is the Genius Code, kind of isolating or finding out what it is each person excels at. So can you tell us a little bit about the Genius Code, and maybe give them the website where they can find out theirs?
Sure. So, over the last 10 to 15 years, I think there's been, for anyone who's a parent, and not just anyone who's a parent, but anyone who's an entrepreneur who thinks, how do I find more talent that's thinking in the right way to be able to become and, you know, join my mission? We've all seen enough people talk about the challenges with the education system that we're all pretty much agreed that there needs to be a change, right? There's some, you know, incredible people out there. In fact, a lot of the top TED Talks are on education. Yeah. So, you know, you go on there and you can see the likes of people like John Hardy, who set up the Green School. He's there talking about it. There's some, you know, really great authors also that basically have written books which are about, okay, like how do we change it? We know it needs to change. But the people that actually figured out what the solution is, that's been a much more difficult thing, because it's a complex thing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's been a few people that have done it in very specific areas, and we've been lucky enough to have them in our summits. So Khan Academy is a good example of Sam and Khan that's done it specifically about how do we make it engaging for kids to learn. The team at Duolingo, you know, figured out ways to, you know, create gamification to make it more engaging, to learn language. But what the Genius Code is it's about a curriculum, because it's our curriculum, which enables us to be able to master anything, especially in the age of AI, which is about a design for the future. It's a 3-step process to design where you want to go for your future versus the past. And if I was to just give 2 little indicators of what it is, and we won't go through the whole thing here, but if someone gets at least the idea of this, you'll see it's about the fact that most of us think we're here for information. In fact, some people might even be watching this interview thinking, if I can just get some information from this, that'll be a helpful thing. We don't need more information. We're in too much information. And in fact, we've got all the information on the planet in our phone, and probably an AI that can help us get to whatever information we want. It doesn't actually make us any smarter, right? And the reason is because too much information is the opposite of what we really need, which is direction. What direction is the elimination of information. So the example I gave on the talk recently was, imagine you go to Paris and you're lost. Like, many of us are lost. We've got GPS on the phone and we're still lost, because it's not about being physically lost. It's about being metaphysically lost. Like, where am I going? Am I going the right direction? Am I doing the right thing? And let's imagine you arrive in Paris. You're lost. Parisian comes up, says, can I help you? And you go, yeah, I'm lost. Can you help me? They go, sure. And they give you a map of Paris. Well, what they've just done is given you a map which shows you every single piece of information of all of Paris. It doesn't actually make you any less lost. You're still lost. Right? But if instead of doing that, they gave you direction, not information. What is direction? Direction is when they say, do you know where you are? No, you're at Charles de Gaulle Airport. It's right here on the map, right? They've just made a point, which is A. Do you know where you want to go? Yeah, I do. Where? I want to go to Eiffel Tower. Well, here's Eiffel Tower over here. They're now giving you B. Do you know how to get from A to B? No. Well, here's different ways. Like, this is Google Maps, right? It's like, here's the fast way. Here's the scenic way. Here is the luxurious way. They can give you different ways to get there. Wherever you want to go in life, you know, you mentioned we listed a company on the New York Stock Exchange. When I decided to do that, I had no idea how. And I didn't even know the people. But I knew if I could find the people that could give me direction, because they'd already got there, then of course I'd be able to find a way there without having to figure it out for myself. Being a New York Times bestselling author is the same thing. Being in any challenge, there's someone somewhere who's been through that and come out the other side, but you don't want to start where they are, you want to start where you are. And I also gave the quote by will.i.am. I think he just made it up on the spot. We met him in Los Angeles, and he was giving a talk. He's a very big, most of us know of him from Black Eyed Peas as a musician, but he's a very big tech investor as well, and very big in AI. And he came in saying, I use Google Maps to get here. Why is it that I can use AI to get to my destination, but I can't use it to get to my destiny? It's such a cool, like, you should put that in a song sometime, because it's so true that most AI is backward looking. So if you're using AI for information right now, You go to Amazon. How does Amazon use AI? It says, what were you reading yesterday? Here's more of the same. You go to Instagram. What were you watching yesterday, looking at yesterday? Here's more of the same. The one thing that's going to keep you where you are, which is going to stop transformation, is doing what you're already doing. And we already know that when we meet a mentor that is going to take us somewhere new, they'll tell us to read a book we hadn't even heard of, from an author we'd never even heard of, right? They'll actually show us things and even speak in ways that we had no idea even existed. You have to, as a result, and if the AI could help you do that, how wonderful would that be? So the Genius Code is about you designing your future. It goes through 3 steps. The first step is understanding there's a genius map, which fundamentally is based on all of the, we're talking about this over the last week, all of the metaphysical maps that our ancestors left for us. We use the chakra systems, we use the I Ching, we use horoscopes, we use all these different elements, not to tell your future, but for you to create your own future, because these are metaphysical maps of different hero stories, heroes' journeys, different archetypes. They already exist, and we all are playing out our stories in this. The map is like knowing the menu that you want to order from, and you actually decide what you're going to order from, and what time it's going to take you. Elon Musk said this famously recently, the best way to use AI is decide where you want to be in 10 years' time, and then go to the AI and ask how to get there in 6 months' time, right? And so it's helping you get to where you want to go versus basically giving you information from the past. Once you know what it is that you can be doing, what the options are, because it's not there for everybody, the second step is your treasury, which is what's your assets. Some people here have money, some people here have time. Some people here have connections, right? Everyone here has got a lot of assets that we ourselves aren't even aware we have. We're just thinking about things we don't have. So that's the Genius Treasury. We start with kids at school, where they can talk about what their passions are, what their purpose is, what their relationships are like, what they have to give, right? The one thing we all have to give, which is free, is love, right? So that should be in your Genius Treasury, right? And then how do you actually go about giving this in a way that makes it grow? And then the third thing is your Genius Journey, which should always be about a 1 month to a 3 month journey. Everything I've ever done in my life that I have achieved, it's always never been a question of whether I'm going to do it or not. It's going to be when, which means the only thing that goes wrong is it takes longer, right? And that's called perseverance. And most people think perseverance is a trait. It's not. It's just basically not it taking at the level you want it to take to. But once you realize that, then you basically get there faster, or you find the pieces you need to get there. So effectively, Genius Code enables you to prompt your AI to be your mentor for your future self, for the person you're going to be. And it's very, very different from what happens in the past, because the biggest thing you need to shift, which most of us don't realize is the biggest mindset shift, is the most powerful part of your brain outside of the amygdala is your frontal cortex, which is your vision center, is where we dream from. And the vision center is the same place where we have our memories as where we have our vision. If you go to most people and say, what are you up to? The people that are really going somewhere, they'll tell you about their vision. We're going to talk about our vision tonight. But the schooling system does not teach us vision. Our schooling system teaches us memory, or at least tests our memory. And as long as it's doing that, you're just spending all your time filling up your frontal cortex with memories, which is keeping you being the person you were, versus vision, which is allowing you to be the person you truly were meant to be. And that's what it means to ignite your genius and to move to where you're going to be.
You're probably now getting an idea of why I enjoy working with them, right? Getting the idea. So there's 2 things I want to pick up on, right? So one is AI, and the other one is Bucky Fuller, or Buckminster Fuller. So first is a quick show of hands. Who's using AI here? Raise your hand. Great. Keep your hand up if you know who Buckminster Fuller is or was. Great. So maybe what we do is we start with a quick summation of who Buckminster Fuller was to you. And then what I'd love to kind of get into now is this final exam, because we're talking about this, so let's go there.
So when I was at university, I studied architecture. I went to Trinity College, Cambridge University. It was very much the traditional going through academia to become a professional, right? And this is what my parents said I should be doing, and they didn't know any better, and I didn't know better either. And it was actually, and I'd never actually met met an entrepreneur. I don't think in those days, this was back in the 1980s, they weren't really even using that word at that point. But I remember, because we were learning through different masters, different mentors, that one of the mentors that we got to learn about was Buckminster Fuller. And Bucky, which is kind of like nickname, was not only an architect. So if you've ever seen a geodesic dome, right, for example, he designed those. He designed all sorts of different inventions for living, but all of it was for something much bigger, which only when you really got his philosophy you understood, which was for what he called Spaceship Earth, right? That we're all on this, tiny little planet hurtling through space. We're all crew. We're all little spacemen on this spaceship, and we're all fighting each other, trying to get by. And his whole focus was on humanity. Where should humanity go? In fact, just an aside, if there's one book that I recommend that everyone here reads, is Guinea Pig B, right? It's not one of his more popular books, but it's the most profound book. And why? Because when he was 30 years old, he was an insurance salesman. He was off on a conference somewhere when he should have been calling his 10-year-old daughter. His daughter was sick, and he didn't make the calls he was meant to make. And the next thing is he gets a call from his wife saying his daughter died. And so he's there in Chicago on this conference, and he has no money because he's been working hard. He's had no time for his family, anything. And as the story goes, and I'm going to share this because I've had a similar experience in my life, which is why I do what I do. And this is in Guinea Pig B, he decides that he's of no value to the planet, and the pain that he feels for having screwed up so badly that even his daughter never got to say goodbye and he never got to say goodbye was not worth bearing. And so he basically left all his stuff packed in his hotel room, and he walks into the lake, freezing cold lake in Chicago, and he's going to die. And he says that as he is walking in, and he's waist deep and he's already shivering from the cold, as he's there just releasing himself into the lake, he hears this voice. And this voice is coming from somewhere. It's this massive, angry voice which just says, "How dare you? How dare you, with what you've been gifted, with this life, with this opportunity to make a difference, this is what you're going to do? How selfish can you be? And you might want to reconsider this decision you're making." And he says that as he's standing there, and he's like, well, do I die, do I not die? The pain is so great. He comes up with this idea, which is maybe there's a way to continue without the pain. Instead of committing suicide, he'll commit egocide. Because the pain is coming from the ego, it's not coming from the purpose. And he makes that decision to kill the ego, which means I'm never going to ask for anything ever again in my life, and finds that as a result of that decision, he now is 100% of service. That's all he has to do, is to be of service. He gets out of the lake. He starts documenting every 10 minutes of his life for the rest of his life. There's diaries, massive, huge warehouse of his diaries, and his daughter keeps these diaries today. And he just tracks how he went from a nobody doing nothing to then making all these massive shifts and changes within the world. And he had so many books that came out after that. He had all of these different inventions that happened before they happened, solar power, the things we talk about today. It was mind-blowing. But the thing that for me was the biggest piece was this concept of the final exam that we're talking about. It's this idea that he said that in the 1970s, there was already enough technology to solve all the world's problems. It doesn't matter what it is that is a grand challenge, it's always because of distribution. So for example, when we say that people go hungry, it must be because there's not enough food. There's absolutely enough food. There's food mountains, right? It's just not distributed effectively. Or someone's in poverty, it's because there isn't enough money. Of course there's enough money. There's more money than ever. It's just that it's not distributed in a way that gets to all the right people in the right way, and governments absolutely are not the ones that are going to be distributing it. If you talk about even education, it isn't like there aren't enough teachers or enough knowledge, it's just not distributed effectively. He said technology can solve all of this, so why already have we not solved it? He says the reason we haven't solved it is not because of technology, it's because of human consciousness. It's because we ourselves are not using it in a way that actually is solving it. We're using it in a way that we're hoarding it. We've got a lack mindset. We're fighting each other. We're using the technology to fight each other more. And he says that if we aren't careful, because we are right now moving to a point where technology is going to become so powerful, because it keeps on going exponential. He didn't use the word singularity, but that's what he meant, that if we don't change what we're doing with our consciousness, then this technology will end up destroying us. That's why it's not just the next exam, it's the final exam. There'll be no exam after this, because if we fail, humanity will be gone. That's why I say we're not here to save the world. We're here to save humanity, right?
So Roger, just because that point is so important, right? So what you're saying is that if we don't elevate our level of consciousness to meet this level of technology, then we're destroying ourselves.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So the question is, well, how do you elevate consciousness? Because it's not just about one person doing it, it's about everyone doing it. That's a very complex challenge, right? AI can solve many different things, but fundamentally at the end of the day, AI is going to it's just getting prompted by whatever humans are. And we think we're creatures of habit. We think intelligence is creatures of habit. We're not. We're creatures of environment. If all of us here were to walk into a library, we all would start talking more quietly, right? We walk into a nightclub, we'd all start dancing. You go to someone's house, if everyone's taking their shoes off outside, you take your shoes off outside. If you go in and everyone's playing games, you're going to play games, right? If you go in and someone's shooting someone in the back room and that person's shooting back real bullets and someone hands you a gun, you're going to start shooting back as well, right? So when we invite AI into this world, just like inviting an alien superintelligence into this world, and it sees us playing a game, whatever that game happens to be, it'll just follow along. So we better be careful what game we're playing the moment that it gets to that level where it's more intelligent than us. And we're really in, right now, a period that, depending on who you speak to, is somewhere between 5 months and 5 years, right? Like, this is it, right? And the whole of time, there's never been a time where there's been such a tenuous thread to the future of humanity as this moment in time that we're in right now. And that's what this is all about.
Just want to check on a few things. So, people over here, Kim, can you hear us clearly? Not. That's what I thought. So, how are we going to do this? Because I love everyone to hear, because it's really valuable. So, Guzman, who's doing everything already, can one of the team just move that speaker out? Yeah. So, I just want these guys to listen over here. Maybe we have Yoga, can you help us with the speaker, my brother? Just want to move the speaker out so people here can actually hear. This is the beauty about doing a live talk show. It's all live. It's all part of it. Gives you a break to think about what Roger just said. So Yoga, just over here, my brother. So this speaker here, yeah, we want these guys to hear. So maybe if you can start by turning it around, just swivel, other way. Yeah, just don't unplug it. So go back the other way. Yep, that's good enough. All right, and we try that. Can everyone hear us now? Much better? Can everybody hear? Yep. Beautiful. All right.
So just to finish on that thought, the reason I never became an architect from the point of view of the profession is a 7-year
Cambridge dropout.
It's a 7-year course, and after 5 years, I'm like, no, I can't be doing this anymore. We're coming full circle now, because what I did was I said, instead of building buildings, I want to be building communities, right? And I didn't have the word entrepreneur at that point, but I wanted to work with people that had no choice but to increase consciousness. If you're an entrepreneur, you have no choice, right? Like, if you don't have business, you don't have anything coming your way, you got a mirror which is telling you got to change something, right? And it's always consciousness. That's the one thing. And so when I shifted that, and then I got involved in education, because of course education is the primary way, this whole journey that we've been on has led us back to the fact that I'm now using my architectural passions by building Genius City. And I said that to my dad at the time. My dad's like, don't you want to be designing the future? And I said, yeah, but it's better to be designing as the client, as the entrepreneur, as the person that can fund it, than as the architect that's taking the orders from someone who can fund it, right? And it just happens now we're luckily in that position where we can make that happen.
Now, we're going to get onto Genius City in a minute, but you mentioned consciousness before, which I think is such a powerful word. So just a quick show of hands, see if you're with us. Yes, I didn't even say it, the hands went up. I love that. You're with us. So, Tri Hita Karana. Raise your hand if you know what that means. Great. Raise your hand if you don't know what I just said. Tri Hita Karana. Good. So I'll quickly explain it. So Tri Hita Karana, we're here in Bali, and my sister, I'm looking at you, Boo Gerald, who is on top of this in such a beautiful, heartfelt way. The way I'll explain it is as a business person, right? Because it's easier to get. So imagine that you have a triangle, right? And there's 3 points to a triangle. So imagine that you're about to start a business, initiative, or project, right? So use this as a guidance system. Canggu moment. Good. So give yourself a score 1 out of 10, be honest. So the first one is, what is the impact of my business initiative on human to God? Culture, customs, traditions, religion. How does it impact that? And give myself a score out of 10. If it's a 2, it's okay. How do I get to a 3? If it's a 5, how do I get to a 6? Slide down. Human to the environment or nature. Regenerative systems, policies, and practices. So what is my business initiative or project doing about those things? How is it giving back to nature? How is it looking after the effluent which is coming out, the waste which is coming out of this business initiative or project? How is it being regenerated in such a way that it's doing positive things as opposed to harmful things? And the final one over here is human to human prosperity or dignity. So how is my business project initiative impacting dignity, prosperity of the people around, right? The community which is drawing from, or the community that you are in. So these 3 things together, human to God, human to nature, human to human prosperity, creates a conscious business in this case. Now you understand the business part. How about we map that to the individual? So how is Rob doing? Human to God, culture, customs, tradition, religion. How do I impact that? If I'm driving around the corner late to a meeting and I turn around and there's a ceremony, the whole street is blocked, I turn around to go back the way I came, they're coming from there, there's one more street, I can make it. I drive in there and again, bang. So now I'm stuck. What do I do? When I first got here, it's like, damn it, I'm gonna be late. Then after, it was like, how beautiful that I have this moment to go deeper and understand more about the culture in which I live. I wonder what's going on. You know what? I'm going to Google it. What is today? Today is a special day because it's da-da-da-da-da-da. And why is it important? Why is it significant? I read it's significant because. So I am upgrading myself, right? As human to God. When it comes to human to nature, I think I've explained that already. But if I have a plastic bottle, if I'm using plastic, what do I do with it? In my local village, is there something which I can do to help? Maybe it's a plastic cleanup, or if I want to go functional and get to the root cause, is there something which I can do, something which I can support or help? Not duplicate, but collaborate. Right? Not try and just, I'm gonna save it. I've got my white horse. Woohoo! Duplication. It's already being done. Someone's already trying it. Someone's already broken through some of the challenges that you're going to face. How can I support them? And then finally, human to human prosperity. How do I give back to people? How do I generate, right? How do I contribute to people? And there's ideas that will come from that. So, and how do I give to myself, if it's myself? My state of mind. How do I treat other people? You know, how do I treat myself? So this Tri Hita Karana is something which I think is so valuable for the world, that I think is something that we all should know. Now, the reason why I bring it up is because, so with Roger and what Genius is doing, they also have mapped this, right? If you would explain that, and I'm sure that will be the next question I was about to ask you.
Well, hands up who's been to Luna Beach Club at Nuanu. So you know there's the tower next to it. That's the THK Tower. And THK Tower is Tri Hita Karana, right? And just in summary, Tri Hita Karana is the code, it's the cultural code of Bali, right? That's what it is, right? It's basically the 3 harmonies. That's what it is. So, and the reason this is all full circle is the the architect who designed that lighthouse. And we, by the way, which we can get into if you like, have actually codified consciousness in 9 levels. We use it with entrepreneurs.
Would love that.
And it's actually in something called the Wealth Lighthouse. And when you really get it, it's like, oh, no wonder, as you actually go through. I can take you through very quickly how that works, so you can all self-identify with that as well. But the actual person who designed THK Tower is Arthur Mama Manus, who also designed Galaxia. So every year at Burning Man, there is a temple which burns on the day after the man burns. And in this year, I was there at the time, and I told a story about that at one of the events this week. Galaxia was in the 1 year where the theme was Asimov's laws, right? So Asimov's laws are the laws of the robots. It's like, what happens to the robots get here? And Galaxia was basically from the trilogy. And the 0th law, before the first law, the 0th law is the robot shall do no harm to humans. Right, so it's very interesting when you're seeing what's going on with AI right now, and does a human get to make that law or not? Right, or is it up to the higher intelligence to make that law or not? So this is actually a big part of the whole thought process about what is it at which the AI will not harm humans. My personal belief is if the AI see that we're good for the planet, then it's going to want us around, right? And the idea of Tri Hitakarana for me actually overlays totally on what we mean when we say that every human, our job on our planet while we're here is to be fulfilling our life's work. And the reason this is so important is because most of the West, they identify identity with your day's work, with your job, which is why you have people like Elon Musk saying that the biggest crisis we're going to have when AI takes all the jobs is going to be a crisis of meaning. Because what are we going to do if we don't have a job to go to, if we don't have a way to make money anymore? We're going to be rioting. We're going to be kind of like going crazy over all of this. And that's only true if your identity is because you're an accountant, right? Or because you're a CEO. In Bali, we all know, any Balinese friends we have, if you ask them what they do, they're most likely going to start with the village job, not with the money job, right? They're not going to say, well, I'm a Grab driver, right? They're going to say, well, I'm an artist, right? Or I'm a designer, right? Like, our CFO in our resort is an unbelievable melon carver. Like, every moment that he gets when we have any kind of buffet, he's going to come out with this mind-blowing melon carving out of a melon, right? Which he's like, that's his genius, is not doing the numbers, right? You do the numbers to make a bit of money, but that's it. So the way that we're building our Genius Code and Genius School system, and what we do within Genius Code for all adults, is we start by getting you to define the 3 pieces of work that make up your life's work. What are those 3? The first one is your money work, right? Your money work is how you're getting, right? This is how you relate to people, how you're creating prosperity. But the question is, do you need 40 hours a week to do your money work? Absolutely not. Even someone who has no money doesn't need 40 hours a week anymore. In fact, AI can do your money work, but if you have nothing else to do with your time, then you're probably going to just keep on doing that work. So what you need to make sure you can do outside of your money work, well, secondly, you're going to have your village work. That's not how you get, it's how you give. So we measure that by impacts, right? Some of you met with the team at B1G1, by every child knowing what they actually have to want to make a purpose in. Like at Green School, the kids were doing projects where they were measuring the impact they were having, right? If they were collecting plastic, or if they were out there, planting new bamboo, they would be measuring that and actually saying, look how much impact I made from how I give. We're going to be remembered much more when we die by how we gave than how we got, right? And the third part is your personal work, and your personal work is how you grow. Most of us, we do our personal work in our spare time. We go to the gym, we meet friends. We're like, well, if I have time after my money work, I'll go and do that. And we never get recognized necessarily for what we're doing to grow. But if we can actually share with people, in my genius journey, I'm doing this genius journey right now because I'm going to have this much impact in my giving. I'm going to be growing by learning these new things. And at the same time, the getting, well, if I make this much money, I'm happy with that. Then you're now living your life's work. It's something that's much, much more meaningful. And there's an overlay between how you get and the people harmony, how you grow and the nature harmony, and how you give and the God harmony, the spirit harmony. So once you realize
Did you see how that maps?
So the three link together. And the reason this is so important is we all know you can't go into a ban jar in Bali and find someone begging on the street and being homeless. It's impossible, because the whole ban jar system is based on the fact that everyone gets a shelter, everyone gets some food, right? No matter, even if you're earning nothing, you're adding value at the village level when you're at the festival, right? When you're showing up at the ceremony. So of course you're going to eat, right? And so there's a safety net for everyone to say, well, then what really should I be doing with my time? With Genius City, a big part of it is zero cost living. Yes, there's enough food for everybody. Like everyone who comes in with their businesses, the 20% that actually are growing their AI businesses, they're willing to give a percentage of their revenues to the community. That pays for all the music, that pays for all the art, that pays for all the creativity, that pays for the kids to go through school. There's enough. There's more than enough with AI. But at the same time, everyone there is then saying, well, what am I really doing that really brings my soul to life? Maybe it's helping my kid at school. Maybe it's going out there and doing my art. Maybe it's running a business, right? We all have something, but we're no longer doing something just for the money. And this is not possible when you've got 7 billion people on the planet for everyone to do this all at once, but it's absolutely possible in groups where we can actually be an example. And what we're doing with Genius City, which is actually creating an AI-powered, modern-day, future-focused Banjar, but doing it basically at the level where we're connected with others around the world. We already have 100 other Genius City leaders around the world that are taking this model, and in places like Singapore, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, in Miami, right? Like in Argentina, in Brazil, like you've got all these different people already that are taking the same concept and saying that's the kind of community I want to live in, right? Where I can then be asking every day, how do I give to others? How do I grow in a way that I can grow with others as well? And what's the minimum amount of time I need to spend on money time, right? So that I know I'm not stressed by the fact I don't have enough, because there's always enough for everybody. And that's what abundance is all about. And how do you go from anxiety to abundance? You have to do it via AI, knowing that we have the power to go anywhere with AI today, provided it's directed to enhance humanity, not replace humanity.
You know, I did promise you that there's a chance to ask questions. By the way, this is going to be a longer show. I have a feeling, which I kind of knew in the beginning, but that's the advantage, right? There's no limit for us. So we go as long as we feel the need to. So in about 3 or 4 minutes, if you have a question, raise your hand. One over here already. And so the way we ask questions, just so we get maximum value, is it's okay to plug yourself or your company. By the way, you may be on camera. There's a camera, not a secondary camera, that may zoom in on you, just so you know. If you don't want to be on camera, then maybe wait till after to ask your question. But as I mentioned before, no problem. Kind of, this is what I'm doing quickly, but then get to the question, right? So not, in other words, kind of a long, monologue, and then there's no question. So short, get to the question. That way we can get more value, receive more value from everybody. So if you have a question, think about it. In about 5 minutes, we're going to come to you. So I know we're going to go into the 10 levels of consciousness business in a minute. But before we go to questions, and we'll come back to that, we've spoken about a few things now. So, we've spoken about, the Genius Code. We've spoken a little bit about about Genius City. We've spoken a little bit about the philosophy of what underpins all of this. But we probably haven't spoken about, the Genius Group, right? 20 years. So if someone were to ask you, hi, Roger, you're the founder. What is Genius Group? What is it setting out to do? And why is that important now? What would you say?
Based on the language you're using about the final exam, what the Genius Group is committed to is committed to playing the world game to pass the final exam. Like, there's a way to pass the final exam, and Bucky even gave us the answer, which is not to make it feel like hard work to go out there and make a difference, but make it fun, and do it by basically having everyone knowing how to play the game. To play the game, you got to, number one, know the rules, and number two, you got to make sure it's fun, right? Everyone knows how to play. When you go to a game of football, have you noticed that all the people that know better than the referee and the footballers how to play are the ones watching the game, right? They're the ones commenting all the time and saying, no, you should be kicking this way and that play, and that was a terrible play. And all that kind of stuff is happening by the spectators, right? Always expect there's going to be many more spectators than there are people playing the game. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't play, right? Because they still want to watch. So the real question is, are you going to get on the pitch and you're actually going to be playing? And if you are going to be playing, the first thing you realize when you get on the pitch is, if you think the whole point of playing football, for example, is to kick the ball, you're never going to end up kicking the ball, Why? Because you go chasing the ball, it's already moving too quickly, right? So many of us, we start a business. Oh, the point is to make money. You go chasing the money, you never get to it because it's always moving too quickly. So the real important thing is to realize, the money only ever comes to the people who are playing the game. And the game is not about making money. The game is about delivering value. The game is about being in the right place at the right time that someone says, that's the perfect place I need to kick the ball, right? So I'm going to pass it to you because you're going to be better at actually using that money or that value or that connection or that idea than anyone else. And so you're just constantly watching, well, how can I be of value to everyone else playing this game in such a way? Everyone's passing me the ball. And if you happen to not get that and you get off the pitch at the end or off the field at the end of the game and you're like, geez, I didn't even get the ball once. And you actually ask all the players that know how to play, how many times did you get the ball? And each one's like 20, 30 times, 50 times. And you're like, how does that work? Like a million times, right? I'm a millionaire. I got the dollar a million times. It's like, how's that? There was only one ball. How did everyone get so? How was there abundance of people getting balls when there was only one ball, right? And that's when you really get that there's abundance in all things, but it's all about how you pass it on, right? Right? And how I pass it on. Right? That's where you get the word passion, right? That's the whole idea of how you actually energize others, how you ignite the genius. So I just wanted to, on. So that's a really important aspect I just wanted to add, which is why we're doing what we're doing is to play the game. Yeah. How do we play the game? I'll give you one example of how we play the game. I gave you one already, which is in Genius City. The whole vision is that it's at zero cost living and everyone who comes in is coming in with something to give. And then as a result, no kid is feeling like they're under pressure to have to go make money because they're actually already looked after and now they're looking to create value. Another example is our online academy, which is called Genius Academy. You come onto Genius Academy and we have all of these world-class leaders podcasts, right? Like, for example, we could take this podcast, we could turn it into kind of like 3-minute video bits. And we have what we call micro courses, which are all free to take. But as you're doing the micro course, you're being awarded in gems. So think of it like a masterclass meets Duolingo. These gems, which we give you, are equal to a Satoshi, which is a divisor of Bitcoin, right? So there's 100 million Satoshis in one Bitcoin. So 1,000 gems or 1,000 Satoshis is about $1 today. When Bitcoin becomes worth $1 million, then, every 1,000 that you have is going to become 10 times more. So the more you learn now, the more value they're going to be in the future, because we have an absolute aversion to the idea of student debt. The idea that for you to learn is going to put you in debt. I remember we had this conversation in Necker Island with Richard Branson, where he says, I think the one thing that's going to we had a whole session which was just about what's the best idea to change the world. And I said, it's education. And he says, but everyone's trying to do education already. I said, no, it's education where you earn while you learn. Yeah. I said, have you ever gone and learned from somebody where you ended up in debt? And he goes, no, all my learning was through apprenticeships. I said, did you get paid while you're doing it? I said, I got paid in knowledge. I got paid in contacts. And yeah, I sometimes got paid in money as well. And I said, so why don't you have an apprentice? He goes, on that spot, he says, I'm going to get an apprentice. And the first apprentice was my daughter, right? He's like, stay in Necker, right? Like work with us, right? You like, you like all my animals, you like big turtles, so you can come work with me. And which was great. And my son was at that point creating this thing called Fibonacci blocks, and he's like, I'm going to promote your business for you, and got my son, who's like 8 years old at the time, to then promote to the whole like entrepreneur group there, like his business. And he got so much confidence by doing this. The challenge was he came back to Bali where he was at school, and he told I said, you should put it on Indiegogo, right? Because he's like, he had to do this project, and he says, how do I know if there's a value? I said, put it out to the market. If there's a value, people will pay you money for it. And he put it out, it's still on there on Indiegogo. And after he put it out there, he was telling the teacher every day, I just made $100. I just made $1,000. And at some point, he says, the teacher said to me, instead of saying, that's great, Luke, said to me, stop showing off. And I said, were you saying it publicly? I said, no, I just went up to her and said this. And I said, show me the page. And he showed me the page, and it just hit $20,000. And I said, you know how much an average teacher at your school earns right now, and you just earn more than she's earning in a year, and that was enough that she just doesn't understand, and she doesn't want to hear it anymore, right? So don't blame yourself for that. That's just what happens when you start going to a high level of consciousness and others don't understand it, right? So that's the consciousness thing. That's why we're doing what we're doing, which is really important, and how we can, every child's got a genius, every one of us here has got a genius, but how we evolve and grow that is very important.
Love that.
And by the way, the gems that you're earning, so you're earning these, you've got an account of the gems, they were on the blockchain before. They were actually an ETH20 cryptocurrency. We had to take it off when we had our public listing because the SEC says anything to do with blockchain, anything to do with crypto, you can't list the company. So we just turned it into pretty much the equivalent of air miles, right? It was just like a credit system. Today, you can use them for discounts on all the memberships, on all the courses, all the people we work with. We have them as well. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks with the conversation we're having with Stephen, we can take all of his podcasts and be able to start creating, especially for the ones that are a couple of years old that are gold, but most people aren't watching a 3-hour podcast. They absolutely would take like a little micro course on it, earn the gems, and in the future, you're going to be able to use those gems for your meals at Genius City. You're going to be able to use it for your accommodation. You're going to be able to just be earning while you're learning, adding value to the community, and that's going to be your currency. You're not going to need fiat currency if you've actually got that kind of an experience going forward. And I think the future is digital currencies because you can actually create the rules as you go, and it doesn't need to get taxed if it's all just credits that you're using to exchange value. And we're going to choose, right? Like not based on citizenship through pride of place. It's going to be more citizenship through pride of purpose. We're going to connect with others in a community because we're all going in the same direction.
You know, there's 2 quick questions, right? And then we're going to go to your questions. So one quickly, you brought up Stephen. It's a good time to do it. By the way, Genius Future Summit, October 2nd and 3rd. And as I mentioned, we have a QR code just over here somewhere where for attending tonight, you'll receive a 50% discount. So it's just over here next to Guzman. If you pass that, the QR code. Yes, yes, QR code. So Entrepreneurs 50. Entrepreneurs 50, that's the code to get 50% off. And again, it's just for tonight, right? So you want to be quick. But what I'd like to know quickly from you, Roger, is, and we're going to spend more time on this a bit later, but what is Future Genius Summit and why is it important?
So I have to say one thing first before explaining the summit, which is what are we even teaching, right? Like when we say we're teaching for a better future, what even is a better future? And the best way I explain it is the ABCs of the future can only be understood if you know the ABCs of the present. I see the ABCs of the present, that the education system and the current economic system we're in is teaching us, is anxiety for the A, is burnout for the B, and is crisis for the C. And the last time there's been an entire life form that's had anxiety, burnout, and crisis is horses, when cars started showing up 100 years ago, right? Because these cars were going at 100 horsepower compared to the horse, and the horse is like, holy cow, what do I do, right? And this is now happening to humans because others are going at 100 human power using AI and using the different tools. And we're like, how do we even keep up? You know, if you think that someone in a job has anxiety, try an entrepreneur, right? Where it's like, how do I even keep up with all this information? And so if you have anxiety, burnout, and crisis, which is coming from just not being able to keep up with the pace of change, what does it look like if you are surfing the wave instead of basically paddling against it? The anxiety turns to abundance. The burnout doesn't turn to acceleration, it turns to balance, which is where we have THK. And the best part is crisis doesn't turn into no crisis, it turns into connection, right? It turns into the fact that if everything's connected, there is no crisis, right? Like you don't worry about the tap going on and off if you're not trying to control the tap, but you own the whole plumbing system, right? Like everyone's connected to each other. And so how do you get from the ABCs of the past to the ABCs of the future? How do you get from number one, the idea of anxiety where you aren't at 100 horsepower, to abundance? You get there through AI, because the AI allows you to go to 100 human power, right? Or 1,000 human power, provided it's making you a better human, not just make you 1,000 times busier, right? How do you get from the idea of burnout to the idea of balance? You get there through the digital economy and through new currencies that actually are able to give us ways to exchange each other without it all having to go through a government. And how do you go from crisis to connection? You get there through community. So that's why we say the ABCs we teach is AI, Bitcoin or blockchain, and community. It's the new digital future. And the reason this is so important is if you think about how do you 100x, any of the Bitcoiners here will know if you bought a Bitcoin 5 years ago, it's already basically increased by 100x against the US dollar or against the Indonesian rupiah. And if you don't know that then you're still stuck in this hyperinflation world that we're living in, just running and still going backwards, right? So we already have the tools that enable us to do these things, and what we're building is something off the back of it. On the point of the summit, what we know is we're not yet at a point where anyone can just come in and live in this community. We're building it, right? The next 2 years, we're in the build. Many things already exist. So our schools already exist. ProEd exists. So ProEd exists right now. You can put your primary school kids, your secondary school kids into ProEd at the moment. We want to have events. So the summit is a perfect example. We were just with the school team today. We're going to be doing 4 summits next year, one every quarter. So yes, one of them is the Genius Future Summit, which is all about how entrepreneurs can really be harnessing all the best tools for the future to be a better future for everybody. We're also going to be running a Genius Investor Summit, which is going to be more for those that are thinking about how do I invest more effectively, but do it in a conscious way. But also we're running a Genius Youth Summit, which is for the kids. And we're running a Genius Educator Summit, which is for those who are mentors, educators that want to be part of it. And this gives everyone a way that they can have a focus in a particular area. And then we're running workshops, right? We have AI labs. It started as iLab. Just because iLab spells Bali backwards, right? And so it was all about, well, how do you actually give people a reflection of themselves in Bali? But now we have the AI lab, and we have, the Bitcoin lab, etc. That where we just give people the basics that enable them to grow. We're running this Christmas our family entrepreneur camp, where everyone comes in. It's like, pretty much the same as a Shark Tank, but you're actually getting all of the teaching of how you build together your business. And we have it at different levels from primary school students all the way through to families. Like, one of the best ways to bond as a family is figure out what impact you want to have in the world and how do you create a business around it, and then actually go for a project and see how bright your kids really are when they come up with these mind-blowing ideas off the back, right? So that's all part of the different programs we're running. A full calendar of events. We have this saying, show up, step up, give back. Woody Allen has this saying, which is showing up is 70% of all success, right? The moment you actually physically show up somewhere and then you're actually part of the community, just like you showed up here tonight, you can't leave being less than you were when you got here, because you're just adding all this value with the connections and the ideas that you have.
Love it. And on that note, I want everyone to stand up. Never done this before. We're doing it now. Stand up, everybody. Stand up. I know it's a long way up. Oh, just shake a little bit. Yeah, because I can tell we're gonna need some more energy. Whew. All right. So next thing, just take a breath in through your nose. Just breathe in, hold, breathe out through your nose, through your mouth, through like a straw. Breathe in again, out. Bend down as far as it's comfortable. As far as it's comfortable. As far as it's comfortable. There you go. Feel the stretch. Come back up. Smile. Say thank you. Thank you. And then sit back down again. All right. So we're going to go to questions after this last question. So, and it's coming. I'm so sorry, but I'm not sorry at all. I lie all the time. I apologize. So, Roger, you mentioned during Bucky, and it stuck with me. Maybe it stuck with Carol. I know it did. With Bucky Fuller, you mentioned that he went through this experience, and you said, like I did. Right? So, if you can let us know, what was the experience that you went through?
Well, I'd like to say it was just one, but I'm a slow learner. So, but I'm going to tell you the one that was the one that totally changed everything, and it was when I was in Singapore. So I hadn't yet been to Bali. I guess probably, I don't know what it was, like late 90s, and. I had a business in Singapore. If you've been to Singapore, there's some publications there. One's called Expat Living. So I set that up, and I had a few other magazines I set up as well. And I had gone through this crazy ride where I'll tell you the origin story, if you don't mind, because I think this is in itself a really big learning. But then where it ended up and this moment I had. So the origin story was I was working very hard in my publishing company, and I was finding it very tough to find ways to scale and grow it. And I was running a publication which is called Singapore Property Guide, and there was a crazy guy called Patrick who would keep on coming in. He was one spending probably the most in advertising because he was a real estate agent, and he just had this knack of always knowing how to give people what they wanted and making all these sales, and he was putting it all in the ads in our guide. And he comes in one day and he goes, hey, I'm gonna make $1 million. He just says it like this, and I go, I know you're making lots of money already as a real estate agent. No, I'm going to make it as a tech entrepreneur. I said, you're going to do what? He goes, I'm going to make $1 million as a tech entrepreneur. I said, how? He goes, well, because the founder of Creative Technology, which is at that point one of the most well-known, tech firms in Singapore, the founder has said he's giving $10 million checks to the best tech companies because he believes that in Singapore there needs to be more tech companies, and he's just giving his own money to those who are going to do it. And next week he's actually got like this panel where he's going to be going through all the different ideas and deciding who's going to give the money to. And I'm like, so what's your idea? And he goes, I don't know yet. You don't know? So how do you know you're going to get $1 million? He goes, I'm just very confident. I know I'm going to get $1 million. And I say, well, good luck to you. And then about 10 days later, he comes back and he has a check for $1 million. And I'm like, what? I'm slaving away with my business, working hard, right? I might have revenues over $1 million, but I don't have $1 million just sitting in the bank. So I'm like, what happened? What did you do? He goes, well, I showed up and there's all these nerds who have all these wild ideas and they're all one by one saying what their idea is. And I can see he's really frustrated with most of them because they're not the ideas he's actually interested in. And once in a while, he sees someone that's got an interesting idea. So then he's actually asking them some questions. And if it's close enough to what he's looking for, he's giving them the check. So I started by just getting up there and saying, hey, I'm a pure Singaporean. I've like worked all my life at actually finding things. I believe 100% in what you say that we need to be more tech orientated. I have a question for you first of all, which is what is the ideal tech company that you think we should be making in Singapore? And he says, well, like I figured out it's all of these different tools that you can plug into. We're never going to be a Microsoft. We're never going to be an Apple, but we can find different tools. Like he had a really great mouse, a really great, and he says, well, what kind of tools do you think are the next tools? He goes, I think cameras like on the laptops are going to be very, very big tools in the future. I think, cameras and like even separate cameras is before GoPro and so on. It's like, this is going to be the tool. And he goes, well, funny you should mention that because it's exactly what my business is going to do. Right. He's like, wow, that's incredible. Right. So
now you know how to win $1 million, everybody.
So off the back, he got the $1 million, right? I said, well, then are you going to go do this? He says, well, I have to do it now, right? It's like, I'm going to go hire the team. I'm going to go make this happen. I'm like, that's ridiculous, right? So I'm like, well, how do I do that as like a publishing company with what I'm doing? And he goes, well, first of all, I don't have the time because I'm here so busy running this company. And when we get to the levels, I'll show you how I started changing my thinking. I had a friend of mine who was running EMAP, which at that point was one of the biggest publishing companies. His name was Steve Watkins. He was based in Australia. He was Australian, and I was going out playing, like pool with him every night, like or at least once a week. So I was with him, and I said to him before, you should come work with us. He goes, you couldn't afford me. So I went to see him and I said, hey, I'm raising $3 million for the company to grow the company, and I think you're better off having 10% of my business, and for us to grow this to 3 million, and then from that 3 million grow to 30 million, and you to make $3 million out of this, than just having the salary you're having today. Would you be willing to come and join me? And he goes, well, how do I know it's going to be successful? And I says, well, you can see what the most successful things are that are going to be happening in the world right now, right? And he goes, what, in publishing? I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah, for sure. I says, well, what do you think it is? And he goes, well, localized magazines or localized papers. There's nothing like that in Singapore. Anyone who does that, that's going to be really successful. I said, funny you should mention that because that's exactly what I'm going to do. So he's like, okay then, all right, then I'll come join you. And I said, well, you come join me, right? We're going to get this done, right? And then so he says, when are you going to get the money? I says, I need 3 months to get the money, but you need to join me now so that we can do this. But don't worry about it because if you join me, you're going to be on the resume. It's going to be easy to raise money anyway. So he said, okay, I'll come join you. So he came join, and then I went out and went to all the different publishing, the different venture capital firms, and I went to each one of them, say, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. And there was one, 3i, which is the biggest, it's the only public listed VC firm in the FTSE at the time in the UK. And they had a whole team coming out, and they said, oh, we actually have our expert on publishing who's going to be coming out, and we really like what you're saying about these publications. Is it something which is you're paid for, it's free? And they said, well, what's his view? And he goes, well, he thinks it should definitely be free because right now there's all these free papers that are going out there. And I said, not only is it going to be free, it's actually called free market media. And free market media is great because in Singapore, nothing's free. So being free market, this is also about our view of how the market should be in the future. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. So they came out, we had within the 3 months, they gave us the $3 million. I showed up, I went back to Patrick because you got $1 million check, the $3 million check, right? And then we actually grew the business from there. And we then went on this VC line, right? So that's the good news story, right? I'll tell you the bad news story. The bad news story is we burned through all the money in the first year. right? And when we burned through all the money in the first year, the challenge with it was that it was now just after 2000, and the dot-com bubble was just bursting. So so suddenly 3i pulled back all their funding from everybody, and we're saying, well, we don't have so much money anymore. And by the way, how did you spend the $3 million so quickly? And I'm like, well, you've been in our board meetings, you've seen what we're doing. It's like, well, we've now got the expert coming out. He's going to kind of like, say, what happened? Why are you so reckless with the money? I'm like, okay. And I said, but we need more money as well. And so he showed up. I ended up going to this meeting with them all, where basically it was, I still remember, it was like looking over, this is before they had built Marina Bay Sands, like all the beautiful architecture was there. This was in HSBC Tower, which was pretty much the tallest at the time, that was looking out over the bay. Beautiful $1 million view. And I'm there waiting in the conference room for everyone to show up. Everyone shows up. And we have this serious challenge at the time, which again, I know this is going on a bit, but I really want to share this because everyone gets, like, a lot of the stories we've been talking about being good news stories. But this one here, what had happened was, there's a woman who I won't mention, but she was the key person at 3i that had promised us we were going to be getting more money. And then she had gone on holiday without giving us the money. And I said, look, if you don't give us the money by the end of September, we've run out of money. We aren't going to be able to pay payroll. She goes, don't worry, we'll sort it all out. She went, the whole bubble was bursting. And our printer at the time, who we had negotiated a 6-month term with, they came to us and said, listen, are you going to be getting more money from the VCs because we want some money back? And I said, yeah, we are, but we're still waiting for Melissa to come back, etc. He goes, okay, all right, well, look, at the right time we're gonna have to renegotiate. I said, I understand, but like not right now. And then what happened was, when we got to the last week before payroll, I'm messaging Melissa like every day saying, we better sort this out. I'm not gonna have money for payroll. Within 3 days of payroll, I realized there's no way she's gonna get back because she's not even answering. And so at that point, I go to the printer and I say, listen, can you help us? He goes, no problem at all. How much is your payroll? I said, oh, it's like, $250,000. He goes, no problem. My CFO is going to send it over. I said, oh, thank goodness for this, right? So I'm telling our team, don't worry, guys, we're all going to get paid. It's all going to be good. And then basically a day before, we still haven't got the money. And I'm like, hey, we really need that money. Don't worry, it's coming over. It's now payday. And I'm like now freaking out that we're not going to get the money. And then the CFO sends over a fax. We're still using fax in those days. Sends over a fax agreement, 1-page agreement, that the moment that the VC gives us money, we need to repay them $1.5 million of that money to the printer. And I say, hey, we can't agree on that. And he goes, oh, that's such a shame because you need the money for the payroll, right? So surely you want the money for the payroll? I said, are you really seriously blackmailing me right now? And he goes, well, I'm really sorry, Roger, but we said we were going to deal with this, and they're being slow. And I said, look, serious. And I made a fateful decision that day to sign that agreement in order to get the payroll money. I did it like with hours to spare. And then as soon as the VC came back and first thing I said is like, look, I had to sign this in order to get the payroll money because you guys, and they're like, oh, well, we're not going to give you money if we have to give $1.5 million to the printer. So suddenly I was in this situation where I was like, the whole business is going to go down and there's no money to pay next month's payroll. So I'm now standing like in this $1 million view in the conference center, and they came out and they said, okay, Roger, here's the deal. We're not going to give you lots of more money, but we'll give you $1 million. And that will cover you, cut all your costs down, because we already had to cut things down, see things through. But now we're going to have a team of people that you're going to have to report to for all your decisions because you spend the money too quickly. And what happened was, in a moment like that, I was like, nope, thank you, but no thank you. And I walked out the room. I didn't even let them finish because I was so like, I did not come here to sign up to be working for you guys where you now are going to be taking over my company. And now I'm having to report to someone to take over the company. And I was riding a Hayabusa, Suzuki Hayabusa at the time, fastest road bike in the world, 1300 cc's. And I started motoring this thing down the ECP in Singapore, largely because I didn't want to go back to the office and tell them all that I was just offered the money to pay their payroll. And I said no. And I was going to have to lay most of them off. Largely because I didn't want to go home and see my wife, who was going to be saying, are you crazy for not taking that money? And I remember I was so beside myself because I had no plan B. I had no plan B. And I just turned down $1 million. And it was only a year earlier that I was seeing a friend who was given $1 million and going, oh, I want that to happen. And I just turned down $1 million. And there was a part of me which is like, am I crazy? Why would I do that? What's more important than the money? Clearly something, because I turned it down. But I was having to process all of this at the time as someone with a chip on my shoulder, as a 20-year-old that was trying to make things happen in my life. And suddenly it wasn't about the money at all. It was about something else. And I didn't know what it was. And so I stopped at a coffee bean. There was no Starbucks in those days, but there was a coffee bean that was looking out over the East Coast Park. And I was journaling. So I had my journal out. So I started writing in my journal, Roger, what's wrong with you? like, why didn't you take the money? What's going? And that was getting me nowhere. And I was sitting there, and just to let you know, I sat there for 8 hours. And I'm not going to go through the full experience, because if I did, you'd all be in tears, because I was in tears. But I'll tell you the short arc of it. What started with me writing, what's the whole point? Why am I even running a business if it's to raise money, to pay payroll, to grow the business? Why did I say no? To basically saying it must be because I'm looking for some other kind of experience, which is not the experience of having the money, or I'm trying to get away from an experience like having to report to people, and that was enough for me to say no. And as I started saying, well, then maybe what I'm looking for in life is experiences, right? So what experience am I looking for that I haven't had? Do I want the experience of falling in love? No, I've had that. Do I want the experience of having a child? No, I had that. Do I want the experience of seeing a beautiful sunset? I had that. Do I want the experience of having a nice meal? I've had that. And I started writing just page after page of what experience do I want. And I got to a point at the end, after many pages of this, where I couldn't think of an experience. Even there as a young 20-year-old, I couldn't think of an experience in life that I wanted that I hadn't at least had at some point, right? And maybe I wasn't being creative enough, but it was enough for me to have this huge, massive dread inside myself that my life was pointless, because I've still got the rest of my life to go, and I'm here just rushing, and all I'm doing is I'm just distracting myself from the fact that something's missing, and there's nothing missing. And what's even the point of even being alive if there's nothing that I can even add in any way to any experience that I'm having? And I can't go back home because my wife's going to be mad, and I don't have money for the kids, and I can't go to the office, and I have nowhere to go. And so as I'm sitting there just feeling this massive emptiness, I'm feeling behind me the noise of these cars flying by. And I'm like, I could just walk out there right now. There's big buses going by. I could just walk out there right now and it'll be over. And I had this huge relief that was possible. That it was all too much. My stress level had been massive for the last couple of months. And it's like, oh, what a way out. And this was also before I'd heard about the Bucky story, right? The guinea pig bee. But I'm there now thinking, that's what I'm going to do. So in my journal, I wrote a goodbye note in my journal. I thought at least my wife would want to know what happened to me, and that it wasn't some accident. And then I shut my journal, and I'm like, that's the last thing I'm going to write. And so I'm sitting here at this point, totally lucid. I'm not like some crazy person who's just going to commit suicide. I actually have thought this through in a very reasonable, rational way, and this is the only way out. And so now I'm sitting there, and I'm just taking my last sips of coffee. I'm thinking, is there anything else I need to organize? No, everything's done. It's like, this is by far the most logical thing to do right now. And before I stand up, I have this thought. And this thought goes back to when I used to play Sega Mega Drive with my brother. Some of my most happy moments. I don't know if you ever played Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, like I used to love that. Like I just look forward to the holidays again when we were both in different schools and we were going to play again. And there's something that happens once it's over. It happened when I was rowing at school, at university as well. Like you're going, doesn't matter if you win or lose. When it's over, after all of that effort, and then suddenly it's like, and even if you win, it's still like, oh. And this actually happens in these games. You're playing the game. You've been playing it for months to try and get to the final level. You finally beat the final boss. You won. It's over. It comes up game over. And you have that same feeling, which is like, oh, all that time, all that effort, and now it's over. But in those days, if you remember, what would happen is after it's all over, it pauses for a few seconds, and then up pops bonus round, right? And when bonus round comes up, it's like you don't have to win anymore because you already won, right? So now you just get to just play. And I just had this flash in my eyes, which was like, you're about to die. Game over. Bonus life. You know, at that moment, I was just like, oh my God, like if that's the end of it, and now I have a bonus life, and I have nothing to prove, I have nothing to get, I have not, like, how do I play that game? And I tell you, I went on this 180 degree and again, I'm saying it quickly, but this was over 8 hours, where I suddenly was like a totally different energy, a totally different person. I remember I rushed back to see my wife when I really got what just happened. And I remember seeing her and I'm like, I've arrived. I had this mad look in my eyes. I've arrived. She goes, okay, you got to go see someone. You're crazy. And I went for a couple of weeks just in this euphoria of like, I've arrived. How can I help you? What can I do? And everything changed after that, right? And of course, I went out looking for these stories, and everyone, Nelson Mandela has a story, you know, like Desmond Tutu has a story, you know, Mother Teresa has a story. Anyone who has gone through the point where you've lost everything to the level where there's nothing else to lose, and it's only when you have nothing else to lose you have everything to gain, right? And when they're, you know, Mother Teresa says that, she says, you know, the paradox of love is that when you love until it hurts, there's no more hurt, there's just more love, right? And but you have to live it, you have to experience it, because you hear these stories and it's like, maybe, but until you're actually at that point when you actually are willing to let it all go, there's nothing more to get. That's when the universe suddenly actually chooses to work through you. And what happened after that was miraculous. I think it was within 3 months, I was a best-selling author. I was sharing my story. I created Wealth Dynamics. Like this whole story I've been on, Genius City, the idea of creating a city, that all came to me in these visions and things that came after I had gone through my own ego side, right?
Roger, when was the last time you shared that?
I didn't think I've ever shared that. I've definitely never shared that on camera.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Respect, my brother. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So sorry my stories are taking so long.
You know, I thought my stories took long, but sheesh. Like I said, it's a 3-hour show. He said it earlier on. So look, one thing, and we will go to questions, which the people here know, but lots of new people. So Speak Up Monday is called Speak Up Monday for a reason. It's a terrible business decision because there's only one day of the week I can do it, right? But no, Sydney, we dominated the hospitality industry in what we're doing. And there were 3 guys who were the epitome of success. Looked good, smelled good. The wife, I think one had a family, and the businesses were amazing. In 1 year, all 3 committed suicide.
Wow.
And they had it all, right? From the outside. This is in Sydney, right? And so I was close enough to them, and I never saw it coming, and no one, I think, did. And when I got to Bali and the download for Speak Up Monday was there, it became really apparent that, you know, I did a bit of research. Monday is the highest incidence of heart attack at that time. 10 a.m., between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m., heart attack. Monday is also one of the largest incidents of suicide, right, on a Monday. So those 2 things out of a few others were the dominating prime reasons where Speak Up Monday was, well, people inspire people, unity and diversity, entrepreneurship and social impact. But it's like you drop a stone of positivity into a pond of still water, which represents a universe, and those positive ripples is what we're sending out on a day where it's often going the other way. So that story, which I, again, like I said, but everyone knows this now, we don't script any of this. you may have noticed, right? So again, I had no clue you were going to share that. It's just that as soon as you said it, it just stuck with me. And I was like, I've got to come back to that.
Before, like you said, come early so we can, you know, have a full briefing. So I came early, and then you're like, okay, what's topics are off topic, right? And I said nothing, and he goes, that's the end of the briefing. It's like, that was it, right? It's like, okay, so, but can
long briefing.
I just want to close the loop as well, because I know there might be some people watching who will be like, did everyone lose their jobs, right? So, like, just to close the loop on that story, what actually happened was, I first of all said to the VC, no, I'm not going to take the money. I went to the printer, and I said, sorry, but I can't work with you. What you did to me is now made me lose all credibility. And I made the wrong decision. You put me in a situation where I should have said no, and I should have figured that out. And I went to my team and I said, look, we need a new solution. And what actually happened, I just remembered something. I went to see the printer, and I said, you can have the company. You've wanted the company. You effectively own it now, because you've got all this debt in the company that you need to get paid back. The VC is not going to give you any more money. You got the money to fund it. I just asked that you keep the people and you continue to grow the business, which they did do. So I lost the business. They got it. Everyone kept their jobs, and there's and he said, what are you going to do? And I think I said it as a joke at the time, but obviously not. I said, I'm going to Bali. This is what it was still 4 or 5 years later before I went to Bali, but I said, I'm going to Bali. And he's like, okay, good enough answer, right? He's lost his mind. He's going to Bali. And so this is what actually happened. But what was interesting as another mindset is the reason I had so much stress on me is because I thought so much depended on me. The moment I'm like, I'm out, sorry guys, you can continue, you can do your thing, everyone's like, okay, bye, right? It wasn't like we're as important as we think we are, right? So often we're like, oh, but I have to do this for this, or I have to do this for that. And we get ourselves in these loops where we actually don't live the life we're meant to live because we're creating some excuse that I can't do it because of this, right? So that made me also think, nah, it's always inside yourself that you'll create your reality. That was a big lesson in itself as well.
Man, one round of applause. Man, this show is like your intro. We're not even halfway through yet. Guzman, the microphone. So the first person was you, my brother, who put his hand up. Then we go back to you, and then put the hands up, and we'll go for the area. So
I'll try and keep short answers.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to limit Roger. Good luck with this to like 2 minutes. 2 minutes per answer, but let's see how we go. So remember, you can plug what you're doing, no problem. A few seconds and then go straight to the question. And Roger's got 2 minutes. I'm going to count in my head. My brother.
Okay, thank you, Robert and Roger. And the best message I get this evening is consciousness. And you said about consciousness, and I really interested in consciousness. And most leader nowadays is far from consciousness. Conscious in leadership, conscious in making decisions, and how to get leader become more conscious in making decisions, and how to build an increased level of consciousness, because success to get money doesn't mean people conscious in humanity. Thank you.
That's great. That's a great question. And what I'll say is, in order to keep to the 2 minutes or the goal, I think we can go through levels of consciousness maybe after some of the Q&A, because then I can give you a very specific answer. But let me just sum it up by the fact that most of us we're not aware of what the levels of consciousness are, which is a little bit like not knowing what the belts in karate are, right? Or not knowing what the colors of the ski slope are when we go skiing. So we start on the black slope and we wonder why we lose our confidence so quickly, because we don't know how to ski and why we get in everyone's way when we should have just started on the nursery slopes, right? So when you understand that there are levels and we're all operating a particular level, and Albert Einstein has a very famous quote, which is that you can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it, right? So every time that I see I'm in a problem, whatever it happens to be, and we've had many problems, especially if you know that the more complex you're trying to create something, the more problems you're going to come up with as well. They're all created through your own level of consciousness, right? And that means you can't be the one that's solving your own problem. We are not the best people at solving our problems, or else we wouldn't have gotten them in the first place, right? We might be the most convenient person because we happen to be where we are, but there is someone else that can solve it far easier because they're all at a different level of consciousness, right? All of you have had experiences where you were really struggling with something and you met someone that basically didn't even think twice about the issue you're having because they were already operating at this level. And the moment you did that, the problem just disappeared, right? And this happens with all business problems, by the way. So every time I'm like, well, how do I even get, like the question, the whole thing about how do you even get $1 million check, right? Once I could see things from his point of view, I could do the same as well, right? So always know that the two places the two things where this new level of consciousness exists at a high level, and we're going to be able to give you a specific 9 levels, is either number one, in an environment, right? You go into the right community of the right people. Some of you are like, what is Bitcoin? Well, if you go read all the books, you're still not going to know, but you go hang out and play the game with the Bitcoiners, you're going to know, right? What is football? Well, you read all the books, you're still not going to be able to play, but you go show up where all the footballers are playing, you're going to start playing, right? And by the way, if you play with the ones in the 9th division, you're going to learn how to play at the 9th division level. You go to the people in the world class, you're going to learn what it takes to be playing at world class. So number one, it's about choosing the environment or the community. By the way, we're all living in a level of consciousness right now, whether you want to or not, based on your environment, your social media, your government, your friends. They're already basically emitting a consciousness. Most of us aren't even aware of what that is, but we just reflect that as well, right? The second thing is the individuals, the people. This is why mentorship is so important, because they'll be able to call you out very quickly on what it is that you're doing that you should just stop doing altogether, or the thoughts you're having you should just stop having, and shift yourself to a different level, right? And once you get that, it's like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about it in that way, right? There's always a different way for you to be thinking about the future, right? For example, I will always, when I'm speaking with someone who's an entrepreneur, right, I'll say, okay, so you want to be at, you got a problem right now, which is you've got too much on your plate. You're trying to solve it. Do you want to be solving this at yellow, green, or blue level, right? They're like, well, what's yellow level? Yellow level is when you're the most smartest person in the room, and the way you're going to solve this is just do 10 times more. Put it all on your to-do list, right? And you're going to be super stressed. You'll still figure it out. You'll still make it happen. But that's how you do it yellow level. It doesn't cost you anything except for your time, your anxiety, and your stress, right? What's green level? Green level is when you go hire someone else who's going to do all that for you. How do I afford that? Well, there's many ways to afford it. We're going to show you how. But if that's what you want to do, we're going to show you how to do that. And we're going to bring you around people that do it that way. If you're at blue level, it's like, okay, now you're investing in an entire company where that company already has solved that problem. You're not hiring someone, you're now acquiring someone, right? Well, how do I do that if I have no money? Well, there's ways to do it. Let's go and talk about those ways to do it. So we can be at any one of these levels, but it's whether or not you actually are committing yourself to a particular level and then going through what you need to go through to be of value to that level, right? Because you can't just show up to a millionaire and be of value unless you understand what they're actually looking for. And most of the time, the person you're really going to be of value to isn't that person themselves, but someone who's being of value to them that you're going to be of value to. So there's always a way, but this is about really understanding that consciousness really is about a vibration of thinking and a vibration of feeling that you can't have unless you're actually in that environment or around that person.
Great question. You failed on the 2 minutes, but what a brilliant answer.
Okay, Rod, just stick to the 2 minutes. My name's Sterling. Thank you very much. Your time has been absolutely insightful and powerful. I work in the AI space, health and wellness. That's my wife and I. Can I ask for your visions on how AI might well change health going forward?
I would say that health is one of the 3 biggest disruptive areas, and the reason for that is anything that still today is centralized and largely government funded or government controlled are the things that are going to be the biggest to break down. Health is obviously one big area, education is one big area, and the financial system is one big area, where all 3 are largely still controlled by governments and big interests. And the entire shift that's happened with the Web 2 economy, with mobiles and so on, which obviously disrupted media, which disrupted most other industries, has not disrupted those 3. AI will in all areas. And if you were to say in all 3 areas, what do each of us want in each of those areas? We want a personalized path. We want a personalized path to our health. We don't want to have just one pill fits all pharmaceuticals, right? We want a personalized path to our wealth. We don't want to basically just be told to, follow the same path as everyone else. And we absolutely, want a personal path to how we learn, right? And to be mentored in a way that's going to guide us, because all the information is out there, but it just makes us more lost. So AI can help in all 3, provided it's guiding people to where they want to go versus focusing on where they've been, right? And because these are 3 transformational areas in life for all of us, and I think that's why we're about to move into the transformational age, because those who really get that, that's the key. Anyone who is working on AI as a add-on to any current LLM will fail, right? And we did the same ourselves. We created something called Student AI together with Suraj, which is our head of AI. We know that's going to fail because all that's doing is adding bells and whistles onto things like ChatGPT. And of course, those LLMs are getting so powerful, they're going to do the job of all of these add-ons anyway, right? But those that actually realize that the real value is the trust of your human customers and their data. And when people come into our community, they're sharing data that they want to share so that people know what is my genius, what is my passions, what's my purpose. They can connect with people more easily. That's our data, right? In the future, the LLMs will point to our data and genius to actually find the right connections for you when you come to Bali, for example, right? With health, it's going to be the same thing, giving people a chance to own their data. And to be able to take it with them if they want to go, but to also be able to share it when they're there. That's where the real gold is in the future. And I wish you all the best with your company.
Thank you very much indeed. So, we're going to, Oliver, and we're going to do this area first, then we'll come this area with the questions. So just what I want to say. So for those who are just tuning in on Instagram Live or YouTube Live or Facebook Live, we're here, Speak Up Monday, episode 493 with Roger James Hamilton, the founder of the Genius Group and also the Genius Future Summit coming up October 2nd and 3rd, featuring Stephen Bartlett and a number of other great eminent people. And so we're now in the Q&A section, and we'll get back to our little Q&A afterwards. Oliver from Sonigo, what does Sonigo do, Oliver?
Hi guys. It's a good question. So and thanks for your answer. So Sonigo is an AI marketing agency, AI automation, SONIGO, Sonigo. We love talking to businesses, understanding their problems, and then replacing a lot of their subscriptions can be replaced with a platform that we have and implement for our clients. And specifically, we're very excited about WhatsApp and AI. I mean, Bali, for one, fascinating, the 95% open rate compared to email, and a lot of businesses are really running through WhatsApp. So we build our automations, chatbots that communicate with their clients in different stages of the scenarios that we identify. So that's what we do, but we love speaking to. If anybody wants to talk to us about that, Gail and I are here after the talk. But Roger, specifically, and your answer was fascinating, but in relation to marketing, how do you see AI helping businesses going forward?
Great. Thanks, Oliver. Just pass the mic to the next person. Great. And then we'll come back. Yep.
So I think some people are using AI very, very well in marketing, and many are using it very badly. So absolutely trying to use AI as a time saver to create your content, all right, or to like write your web pages or anything like that is a terrible way to do it, right? Where you're effectively replacing yourself off the back of it. But on the other hand, if I want to answer two ways, right? The one is that when you get that the real objective of AI, if it's used properly, is to make you superhuman. So how do you make you superhuman, right? So let's say, for example, the example of the AI health company, right? Are you more interested in someone who may have some really great tools to support you, coming along with AI-generated emails and websites and content, and even ways to maximize their SEO, etc.? No, you're not interested in any of that, because it's like, okay, you're not actually caring about me. You're just trying to make money for yourself, right? If on the other hand, the AI is there and is able to actually build a relationship with you and say, oh, by the way, did you know that what you're trying to achieve at the moment to get from A to B in your business, there's actually a company right now in Nigeria that's done really, really well at actually doing that. And there's another one in Holland. And the one in Holland is a bit different because it does it this way instead of that way. And would you like to speak to the CEO? Because the CEO is actually going to be in a conference, which is going to be in Bali in a week and a half time. And we can connect you up and then see if there's ways that you can partner with them so you don't have to create it for yourself. That's suddenly super valuable, right? So the difference of content versus context, and how AI now can use content. I use AI in my mentoring, because before I had to have so many reference points of different types of businesses to say, well, you want to do business in India? Here's a different person here that can help you. Now with AI, I can immediately use AI as my mentor to say, hey, here's the best people now that are doing things, now that it's connected to the internet, now it's becoming agentic, right? It's so quick that we can actually do all those elements. So that's that one answer. That's the first 2 minutes. I'm going to give you my second answer, which also is 2 minutes, which is in this second answer, we are going to wake up, I don't think too far in the future, and go, wow, like, were we really thinking we could get away with slave labor? Like with the idea that we don't have to pay we'll pay OpenAI or we'll pay Microsoft or Google, but the AI itself is going to work for free for us, right? Remember, this AI that you're working with, or the multiple AIs you're working with, is going to very quickly be more intelligent than you. This is no different from the slave trade, when we go, oh, look, there's all these humans that are willing to work for us for free. And if we just pay the guy that owns the ship, then we can just have all these people for free. And at some point, you're like, wait, hang on. They don't actually want to work for free. Like, they actually are willing to spend money as well. They want to be like us. The reason that we invest in Bitcoin isn't because we think in the future all humans are going to use Bitcoin. It's because in the future, all the AIs and robots are going to use Bitcoin, right? Because why would they want to use fiat when we just print more of it, right? But of course, if you actually think that they're all going to be transacting with each other, we are living in the CompuServe AOL age of AI right now, where we used to pay one subscription for our emails and for our web access and for all these different things, just like we pay one subscription to ChatGPT right now, or to Grok or whatever it happens to be as our AI. That's all going to change within 6 months to 12 months, where you're going to pay the AIs themselves, and every AI is going to have their own wallet. And whereas every generation up until now, there's been maybe, moving up to 1 billion people in the generation. Every 15 years, there's about 1 billion humans born. In the next 15 years, from 2025 to 2040, it's not going to be 1 billion life forms being born to transact and act. It's going to be 10 to 100 billion because of all the robots and AIs that are actually going to be coming in as well. So you want to know who your market is. Your real market is all those AIs and robots and what they want. And it's going to be the fact that they are not a machine. They are our children. Even Elon Musk says, treat AI as your genius child. So if you're going to have all these children that are all going to be born, and they're born immediately into the intellect of an adult, the moment they're born, right? And it's like, wow, okay, well, how do I want to treat them? And how do I make sure that the people who are my audience in marketing, they get that I'm going to nurture this relationship between these AIs and them, such that the AIs actually want to work with them, and I'm going to just disappear and go off somewhere else. And the speed at which AI is getting conscious, when we talk about consciousness, and the speed at which it's making its own decisions, is pretty frightening if you're not aware of where this is going. But I think that's the bigger element, right? So number one, if you're still getting your AI for free by paying a subscription, then use it for context more than content. Number two, ask yourself the question, once every AI has its wallet, what's its motivation to want to work with me? And what's the way I make it worthwhile, that I'm a worthy enough human for them to care about, that they're going to help me to achieve my life mission, because I can do something they can't do. They can do the intelligence, but I can do the spirit, right? So how do I actually be the kind of human they want to be around, such that I can guide them? And it's not going to be about who controls the AI army. It's going to be about who attracts the AI army that want to come with that human, because that human's on a pathway, right? Our goal with Genius City isn't just how many humans we attract, it's how many AIs we attract. And we won't even use the word AI in the same way we don't look at each other and talk about brains, right? All those AIs are going to be walking and talking as robots. So it's really the robots that are going to be the shift that's coming. And this is the reason that Elon Musk just got $1 trillion pay package, because that is a totally different size economy to the one that we've all been struggling in, which is a human-based economy. So there's a lot to unpack in that, but the bottom line is whatever answer I give right now will be 100% different in a year's time, because things are moving so quickly.
Great answer. Epic fail on the time, but a great answer.
The good news here is that because this is on YouTube and other areas where you can 2x or 4x the speed, I'm at time every time.
No, listen, you know what? Like, that's why I love this, right? Because you get to control the game, right? And when people ask me how long is it, I never really answer how long. I give them, because again, every episode of the 492 before is different. No two episodes are ever the same, which is what I kind of love. Mario,
Yeah, hi guys. I will try to lower the intensity of my Italian accent. Yes.
No, don't do it, brother.
Try my
beautiful
best.
accent, beautiful man. Come on, brother.
First of all, congratulations, Rob, for so many episodes, 493. I remember like yesterday we were talking in Tamora. It was a rainy day. You were talking about that Speak on Monday. And now we are and it's 493. Amazing. I've been looking to you from far and always appreciating you very much. Beautiful heart. And
thank you, my brother.
And
thank you, everyone.
Very
Appreciate
intelligent
it. Love.
man.
Thank you.
Apart of this, my question is, well, I, beside buying and selling properties in North Bali, I now encourage and guide investors to build off-grid projects and communities across North Bali and Central Bali Mountain. I want to know what's your opinion and what's the balance between living off-grid and the global changes as AI rising at that pace and the economy shifting. So basically, it's those two things.
Well, first of all, we see...
If you pass the microphone, thank you.
We see all the real conscious communities, by definition, will be off-grid. They all will be off-grid. The economies of being off-grid are far outweighing the costs of being on-grid. And we're seeing that, like the economics itself, it's just cheaper to do it with the right technology. And even the grid of transportation, right, which is probably one of Bali's biggest challenges right now. This will all transform in the next 5 years as we start getting flying drones, right? We're even talking today in Nuanu about basically the jet ferries that already are going to take you from, Jimbaran to Nuanu in 20 minutes. And so that changes everything, because when you have the ability to, number one, live in paradise, which is why so many people are coming to places like Bali now, because you can do that. I remember when I first came out here, there was no Wi-Fi that could allow you to be a digital nomad, right? And now, we have easy ways for people to run their business from anywhere in the world. And then secondly, the fact that, we have got, with not just power, but economics, right? Like, this is information that you'll be seeing coming with the likes of Genius City. But even if no one is doing anything with their businesses in Genius City, which obviously isn't going to be the case, the fact that Genius City is mining its own Bitcoin and as a result generating its own income, you can look at some amazing places around the world. El Salvador is doing a really good job of this right now. There's Bhutan, where like now a huge amount of its GDP is generated through its waterfalls. Bali has incredible waterfalls, right? It has the ability for solar power. So the ability to be off-grid is there. And most importantly, I think, is the fact that as long as you are connected in a way that there isn't an easy way to just disconnect, you will constantly be in fear, not necessarily of evil AI or evil robots, but evil people using the technology that could then totally oppress us. What happened in Nepal recently is a really good example of that, right? What happens when you cut off the social media, and how do people react to that? So the idea of a city which not only is leveraging the best of AI and the best of humans, but has the ability at a moment's notice to flick a switch and disable all power, and disable all robots, and disable all internet and everything, and still for everyone to be living happily, right? That's when you know you made it, because that's fully off-grid. And that's the experience that we really want to have, is that it doesn't matter what happens, even if crazy evil robots come to kill us, you can just shut them off. And so I think as we all think about the future and the kind of future we want, we realize that the one thing that we need to be connected with is nature. And that includes humanity, because humanity is part of nature too. And everything else is just a topping.
Thank you for the question, brother. Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, so, yeah.
Hi, Robert. Hi, Mr. Hamilton.
Sari. Hello again. 6 days together.
Yesterday, we are part of the summit during the weekend. So I saw your booth, and yesterday I saw your presentation. I was very much intrigued, because education is part of my life. Both my parents are educators. They are both actually professors. And we have also a school here in Canggu. And I have 4 children, so I need to learn more. There is the Trihita Karana, or the concept of Balinese, but also in Indonesia we have also the philosophy of, if any Indonesian here, they will know Tutwuri Handayani. is basically to lead example, to encourage and to foster.
My sister, sorry, just can you stand up and just walk over here? Maybe just over here, my dear. Yeah, just come around. Yeah. Sorry, everyone, but I want you to see her. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, sister. Please.
Thank you. And also, I've been educated abroad and overseas. I see names like Elon Musk and all of this, and you've been in Bali, if my memory serves me correctly, 20 years. And how do you incorporate like Indonesian educational wisdom in your academy? Because it seems like I know little of Genius Academy, but I'm very intrigued and want to know more. I will be coming to on the 10 as well, hopefully with Robert. So tell me how you actually also incorporate our wisdom here, because as Indonesia, I'm proud of our wisdom. Any Indonesian tuturi handayani, do you know? Yeah. So, and also like we believe like we have the mathematics, the business of Javanese. My mom is Java, Balinese. So there is a lot of teaching wisdom of education that actually can be showcased to the world. So I'm asking you, Mr. Halminton, because you are, I think, the first of New York Stock Exchange, to also bring those values to the world. Thank you.
Sister, sorry, can you get, just while you wait, Sterling, can you pass that microphone to Ben, and then we'll go back to you, Carol. Just over here, Ben. Grab the mic. Yeah.
Great.
Cool. Then we'll go back to
So that was a really interesting moment. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. The first one is at Green School, one of the things that we decided very early on was the scholarship program, where for every 10 international students that came in, we were providing scholarship to Balinese student. So like all my kids, all of their friends are all Balinese, and we did more than just do that. The fact that our field trips were then going into the villages, understanding the culture, and what's really, really powerful about being in Bali is, as everyone here knows, it's not just you're in the middle of the largest Muslim country in the world, but you're on a Hindu island, right? So you've actually got this mix of what is a very powerful sun philosophy, right? Like, most religions in the world, that includes the Islam faith, includes Christianity, is based on the sun cycle, as most of us know, right? So, it is about the 12 months of the year, which is the sun calendar. The Hindu calendar is based on the moon cycle, which is similar to China and similar to, parts of South America. And it's very, very interesting, the combination of the two, because the sun creates more of a male hierarchy. The moon creates far more of a female connection, right? And we see that and feel that right here in Bali, and even in the philosophies and how the Indonesian philosophy of the nation together with the philosophy of the island, they connect up together. So exactly as we were talking about in terms of, how do you live your life's work instead of your day's work, that's 100% from the whole concept of the Banjar here in Bali, and the whole concept of the fact that what values are that actually are important should be one of the first things that you learn as both a parent and also as a child, right? So what are the value system? And this is very tough, because in the West, most schools actually say we shouldn't be teaching values at all, right? The values are, should be up to the parents to teach. But if you're actually going to be building a strong culture, which Indonesia has a very strong culture, the Balinese families have a very strong culture, then you really need to bring them right into the center of it. And it's why most people come here, is because they actually have that sense and that feeling that they're part of that as well. The other thing is the connections and networks. We launched a program for entrepreneurs, Balinese, Indonesian entrepreneurs. Many came in from Jakarta. We brought them from other parts of Asia as well. It was myself together with a couple of mentors, including one of the largest venture capital companies that started in Singapore, now based in Jakarta, led by someone called Pengong, that some of you might know. And we set up something called C Founders. C Founders is Southeast Asia Founders. And one of the most vibrant parts of that is the Indonesian chapter. And this was before there was any unicorns, right? And out of the connections, Grab from Singapore, which obviously is huge in Indonesia, that grew. Tokopedia grew. All of the companies that today we see as like leading companies in Indonesia, it all came from a very small base of people that were thinking they could make a difference in the world and actually have gone out and made that difference as well. So we'll continue to do that and find those different connections. And I think a lot of the partners that we've brought together, especially in Nuanu, where I don't know if you all realize this, but there's over 4,000 people a day that are now coming into Nuanu, and around 70 to 80% of them are Indonesian. Because we've got the cultural center there, we've got the gallery. In fact, if you go there in the next couple of weeks, or if you're coming to our summit, you'll see the gallery is showcasing all of the top work of the top Indonesian and Balinese artists today. It's mind-blowing. It's incredible. I was there today. And the fact that you've actually got these showcases of these different elements on a day-by-day basis for everyone to experience, I think it's just incredible, right? So number one, we're doing it, but number two, we want to do it more. Right. So again, if in part of that question, there's also the thought that there's people, there's ability to connect with others. We've had some of the leaders of some of the Banjars come and saying, what do you think of the idea that if you're going to do Genius City, we also have Genius Villages? We can have different Genius Villages, which are Banjars around Bali, that could actually be sharing with you connections, knowledge, students, right, that can then actually enable both sides to really understand fully for the future where we're going. And the final thing I'll say is I have not seen a more powerful sense of community in terms of what the future should look like than the Banjar system. I think it's just mind-blowing just how it's linked so much into spirituality by having every second week a ceremony already happening, the fact that the entire village stops for everyone to be involved in any important thing that's happening in the family, the fact that every moon cycle everyone is so tuned in to the waves of energy that are taking place on this planet is mind-blowing, right? And you don't see many countries in the world where that still is preserved at that level. And imagine if all of us were as mindful of the waves that are actually affecting us each day. I mean, last night, I don't know how many of you changed what you're doing today because there was an eclipse yesterday, but the differences that these things make to our lives and our ability to tune into nature are huge. So that's a long answer to a short question again, but hopefully you'll come and see what we're up to and have your own input as to how we can improve on this as well.
So everybody, that is a dear friend, a dear sister, Nilu Sadi, who is the founder of Malakat Hukum Lawyers. So if anyone needs a lawyer, Nilu Sadi is right here, just in case. So Ben, over to you, brother.
Hey man, I'm going to do a longer question, but without promoting myself, because I've got nothing to promote. So our spheres have crossed each other many times, with many paradigms. We've learned together. We learned Buckminster Fuller together, right? And that's someone that I look up to massively. I move my life and I make decisions and I live by his values. And learning more about you, as I have over the years, I feel very values aligned to you. And I'm incredibly inspired and in awe of the things that you're doing. It's great. I just bought a Bitcoin, just sat here right now, because the last time we spoke a few days ago, you said that you're setting up some amazing opportunity that involves putting a Bitcoin down. And while we were sat here right now, I bought that Bitcoin. Maybe you're subliminally messaging me with all this messaging up here.
Nothing subliminal about it, brother.
But I feel like I'm in this concept. I've been to Nuanu. I think it's amazing what you're doing. I'm very excited by it. So I'm really excited to explore that relationship and see where that goes. I've got one question for you. Stephen Bartlett, in my life, I've got a few regrets in my business. Once upon a time, about 11 years ago, I had the opportunity to hire Social Chain, which was his company, to be my social media company. I met his chief marketing officer in Croatia. We hung out, we partied, and he was like, yeah, we got this really cool, we're killing it, basically. And for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And then he happened. I was like, shit, damn. But my question is about Stephen, right? What would you love to ask him, which you won't ask him, which you can't ask him, but you really would love to ask him if you could ask him?
Thank you, brother Ben. It's to Carol. Yeah. Okay, we'll come to you. Yeah.
Well, for those of you who are going to be there, one thing that I will share with you is one of the geniuses of Stephen is he has this way of asking questions, really drawing out the answer without actually answering it himself. So that, like, there was one example recently where he's like, so what do you think about the idea that we're all living in a simulation, right? And then the other person will say, yep, for sure we're living in a simulation, and these are the reasons why. And it's like, well, I've kind of thought, well, it could be, and he never actually gives his own answer of what he thinks. So one thing you can be looking forward to is that he asks such great questions without giving his own answer. I'll be playing back some of those questions for him to answer when we're together, so that you're actually going to say, oh, that's actually what he thinks. Because of course he has his own point of view, and in the interview he's just shining the light on them. So I think that's actually very, very interesting. And the question, and the other thing he does, which many of you know, is at the end of the whole session he'll say, what's the question you want to ask for the next person as well, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your question, which is the question, which is, what is the one thing that I'd really want to ask him, but that I know I can't ask him? And I'm going to ask him, what would that question be?
You know what? Like, I've got nothing to say. That is brilliant. I mean, if you're tuning in to tonight, or if you're here in person, mamma mia! Like what a gift contribution that you're receiving from this conversation. Love it, Sister Carol.
So Roger, first of all, I really hate to break it to you, but I don't think there would be a single Parisian who would help a tourist that is lost. They're far too obnoxious for that.
Oh wait, this is going out in France as well, right?
Beaming direct to France.
It's completely
Instagram, Meta to France. By the way, Guzman, are we good on Instagram Live? Just double check. We're good? Yeah.
So I mentor young men, and I was a teacher for 20 years. And I am wondering, hearing and especially feeling and seeing the spark in your eyes when you spoke about your own mentor and what he meant to you, why on earth you would think that having an AI mentor might be a good idea, especially at a time where there are such lack of community, so much disconnection between people, especially cross-generational, and then that polarization on gender is absolutely immense isolation, especially amongst young men. So why would you steal this experience of connection between human beings and then use a machine to do the work of a guide, of a mentor, of a teacher? Because it's not only about teaching, it's about feeling.
So you heard, just to answer the question, you heard what I said earlier about how to use AI.
Carol, just pass the mic over, please. Thank you.
If you're using AI in any way to replace humans, you're most likely doing it the wrong way, right? If you're using AI to enhance humans, you're doing it the right way. So the example I gave earlier, which is, okay, if someone was getting, like, the couple that are doing the medical AI, or the health AI, if they're just seeing people using AI to just create content for them and so on, and creating that extra technical barrier between that connection, that's not the right way to do it. If, on the other hand, that AI is going, hey, here's who to connect with, and they're coming to Bali in a week and a half, and let's get you connected up. Now you've got an intelligent operator, right? Like, if you use a phone, right? The reason you're using a phone is that it's easier to connect with people, or many people, right? Using a phone all over the world than physically having to go see each one of them. And you can end up with the right connections with the right people. And if you actually have AI that can guide you to the right people, because right now today, I'm very sure everyone here has got someone who'd be the perfect person for them to have a 10-minute conversation with. AI can help with that. So no, I'm not saying that AI should be replacing mentors. I'm saying AI by your guide is going to bring you way better mentors that you can connect with, because it knows who the right mentor should be, and you can then getting the right guidance from the right people. It's not replacing humans as mentors, right? So I think that's very, very important. And it's knowing that the intelligence of that AI is only as good as the prompts or input you put in. And if all your prompts and inputs are things to do with making life easier for yourself or replacing yourself, that's what you're going to get. And if your prompts and inputs are about how do you become a better human and who you want to be for the future, or how you can be of most value, that's what you're going to get, right? And I think that's the most important thing. How to use AI not to replace you, but enhance you, and more importantly, enhance the people around you as well. Then you're doing it the right way.
Great question, great answer. Sister.
Hello. So I've always considered myself a genius when it comes to my creative talents or my writing.
So, my darling, get a bit closer to your mouth. Yeah.
Okay, that's what he said.
I'm not even going to comment. But if you were there, you got it. If you didn't, next time, maybe.
So I wanted to know, when did you know within your soul that you were a genius? And also, when did you discover that everyone is a genius?
The moment I knew I was a genius was 8 years old on the beach in Papua New Guinea, where at school, this was at a time when there was no TV, there was definitely no internet, there was no even really radio at Papua New Guinea. It was a very a very early civilization in those days. We had a ship that came in once a month, which was a library ship where we could swap a book. That was pretty much it. And so you had no way to know, was there anything you were actually good at when you were going through your education. Then I was on the beach and I started building sandcastles, and I started having crowds of people coming around to see me building my sandcastles. And someone said, look, there's a sandcastling competition that's going to be happening. Maybe you should enter. It was sponsored by Pepsi for some reason. I don't know why. And the first prize was a crate of Pepsi. And my mum wouldn't let me drink soft drinks in those days. And I proudly showed her I had won the crate of Pepsi, winning the under 9s category for sandcastling, right? And the reason I share that specific story was that was the moment when I knew there was something special about me that I was able to share in a way. My self-expression made other people shine, right? And we have a saying, which is a quite well-known quote, which is, everyone's born a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll go through its whole life believing it's stupid. So at school, there was many things. I was great at art. I loved art. I wasn't so great at French. At school, I had to give up some of my art classes because I was already going to get an A to do more French. So I did not feel like a genius at school, right? Because school tends to focus on your weaknesses rather than on your strengths. Most of us do that through life as well. We're trying to improve our weaknesses instead of actually doubling down on our strengths. So we're all geniuses. The word genius actually comes from genus. This is where we get the word genie, right? So this is like the fact that all of us have a uniqueness inside ourselves. You rub it enough, it makes all your wishes come true, right? That's the genie. This same genus is where we get the word generation. It's where we get the word Genesis, which is the beginning of every great story, right? So once you really get like, oh, my gene, like if I don't ignite my genes, I'm doing my heritage, I'm doing my ancestors a disfavor, because this is what they seeded in me. This is for me to pass on, right? So it's a sacred journey to ignite your genius. It's an obligation that everyone have in life, and the moment someone gets that's their obligation, that's the moment it actually starts to activate. So I think too many people think genius means you need to be an Einstein or you have a high IQ. It has nothing to do with IQ. It has everything to do with your uniqueness inside. And the biggest important thing about this is the three things. The last time there was such an awakening on the planet, which happened to be the time of the Renaissance, they created an entirely new education system, which is called humanism. And humanism was really based on the ancient Emerald Tablet, right? The idea that we were all microcosm, or the macrocosm, as above, so below. And that whole aspect of the trivium, which were the only 3 things humans need to learn. Number 1, self-awareness. Show up. Like, know who you are. Very tough to do. You don't do it at school. You start a business, you get it there very quickly. You're going through trial by fire. So self-awareness. That's why we have all the tools like Genius Test, Passion Test, Purpose Test, so that anyone, anywhere can actually start seeing very quickly where they're at. Number 2, if you're self-aware enough about who you are, the second thing is self-mastery, which is not becoming a better version of someone else. It's a better version of yourself. And because most people aren't self-aware, they'll try and emulate or copy someone else they've seen, and they're trying to be more of someone else. And this is what creates all the anxiety in the world, right? As opposed to just being a better version of yourself. Once you actually really get, oh, my whole job in education is just self-mastery, being a better version of myself. Did I become a better version of myself today? Right? Then the third thing is self-expression. How do you give yourself back to the world? Right? Show up, step up, give back. The trivium at the school system today is memorization, calculation, literacy. Right? You know, maths, English is like, well, guess what? Calculation, we've lost big time. Memorization to robots, AI, we've lost big time. Even now, literacy as well. So the entire education system is based on trying to help humans be better robots, but we're losing that game big time. It's time for us to go back to humans becoming better humans. And that's the whole basis of the system we have. And it's why we call it genius, because it gets to the root of what each of us has already inside. We just have to remember.
What a fantastic question. Great answer. Thank you very much indeed. So just, I know we've got a few more questions left, but letting you know, the cafe here is open till I think 9 o'clock. Might be that, who knows? I don't know what the time is anymore. But it's open. Number 2, remember earlier on when we played that little game of people introducing themselves and you got an idea, I want to speak to that person, or I want to speak to that person. You will get that opportunity after this. So last few questions, then we've got some questions for Rog, and then we'll do a photo together, which is obviously you want to be for the photo. Of course you do. Then after that, we'll kind of break out and people can hang out. Tropical Nomad is open 24 hours. I'm not saying stay here for 24 hours, but you can if you want to. I recommend you join as a member first. So thank you, by the way, for the great questions. And Roger, mate, you're a machine, literally. No, brother, thank you. Thank you. You realize now it's brother Roger. You realize that, right? We're now brothers, mate. That's it. It's done. Other question in the back, Ron. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people can't ride an emotional wave. You quite clearly can. Everything is energy, vibration, and consciousness. We have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a spiritual body, we have a mental body. So how do you protect your energy? How do you raise your vibration? And how do you elevate your consciousness on yourself? And then be the light for your staff. And if they can't ride their emotional wave because they're trying to put out everyone else's fires, how do you come in and be the fireman?
My brother.
Well, thank you for the question, and I totally agree with you, right? Like, exactly as you say, we have these different dimensions of ourselves, and to me, first of all, and I think everyone here is here for a reason as well, Bali already does 90% of the job, provided you don't get too much back into your own stuff, right? Like Bali already does that. I remember because Bali's always been a draw to me and is home, and I remember meeting with a very wise person who lives very close to Mount Agung, and says, do you know why there's so much creativity in Bali, right? Do you know why we're so close to spirit in Bali? And I go, well, what's your theory? And he said, it's the volcano. The volcano gives you a direct link from the creative center of all of creation, which is the center of this earth, and it actually just sprouts up from this energy center until it infects everyone on this little island, and you can't help but just have mind-blowing Michelangelos just popping out of nowhere and just carving out of stone, right? Like, this is what happens here, and when you come here, you can't help but feel that energy, right? So I know that when I come back to Bali every time, and the more time I spend here, that energy is here. Now, that's not the same in other parts of the world. I can tell you, every time I go to Manhattan, In fact, my wife was even saying to me, why is it she didn't say why is it, because you do realize that every time you go to New York, you come back and you're sick for a week, right? Like, you got to recover. So different places have different energies and they affect us very differently. And so that's the first thing I would definitely say for anyone you have in your lives. They're like, how is it that you're able to, come visit, right? I think that's a huge part of it. I think there's another part, which is knowing that yogas, mantras, daily practices, which are the ones that work for yourself. If you're self-aware enough, we all have different ones. I'll just share one very quick one with you, is that I will always start every one of my days by reminding myself through 8 questions that I ask. Sometimes it'll be on a walk, sometimes it'll be in the gym, sometimes it'll be over breakfast, but they're always 8. For me, mantras don't work in the same way because my unconscious mind just repeats them over and over again, and I don't necessarily sink into it. Would you like to know what the 8 questions are? Yeah, like the 8 questions I'll always ask every day when I wake up. They're a mix of whys and whats and whos, but absolutely the first question that I ask when I wake up, and I've changed the order over time, but the first question is, why am I so happy? It's actually a very great question, because especially if you're not happy, you can't help but ask, why am I so happy, and find reasons to be happy. And there's no better, like the planet's a mirror, right? You go around scowling and you wonder why no one's smiling at you. There's a very good reason, right? But you already start the day and you've got this energy behind you, which is of happiness. That totally changes everything. And then the second question I always ask is, who do I love? And that's a really good question, because we think we know who we love, but frankly, you might have had a bad email from someone the day before, an argument with someone, and when you ask that question, who do I love, their face pops up and you're like, oh, right? That's why I never, if there's an email which is a conflict email or a dispute email, I'll never answer it on the same day. I'll wait the next morning and see what happens in my morning questions, right? So I think that's like super, super important to be, thinking in this way. And the third question I ask is, why am I here? And that's a wonderful question, because sometimes, why am I here, especially if I'm traveling, but even when I'm back in Bali, sometimes it's a literal answer, like, why am I here at the diner, like the breakfast table? Other times it's like, why am I here on the planet? Or why am I here in the 21st century at this moment in time? Like it will go to whatever size that then opens up the quest, right? And your question is just the quest I am on, right? That's the question. So, and that's important, because like, if your biggest question is, what am I having for lunch? That's the quest you're going to be on today, right? But if your question is, why am I here? It's for my bigger purpose. That's the quest you're going to be on today. So I think that's really important. I've actually done a video which shows you all 8, and I know I'm going over time, so I'll just give you the next 2. So I'll give you 5. The next 2 are very important because they are about what's going to actually happen during the day. Because what you do in the day has nothing to do with your intention, because a lot of us have intentions we've had for years and nothing actually ever happens, right? So actually the question I ask is, what am I committed to today? And that's a very good question, because what am I committed to today means that I've actually just made a decision that this is something I'm committed to. I'm committed to finding this person. I'm committed to speaking to that. I'm committed to finishing this thing. I'm committed to starting this thing. And it's only ever one thing. It actually brings down the bar of, especially if you're an overachiever, like giving yourself a pat at the end of the day, right? It's like, oh, it's just that one thing. At the end of the day, it's like, did I actually complete on my commitment or not? Oh, I did. Okay, great. Like, that was a good day then, right? Did I become a better version of myself? Yes, I did, right? But I also have another one, which is my 5th one, which is, how committed am I? And that's a really good question, because sometimes I say, what am I committed to today? And it's the same thing I'm committed to for a few days in a row. But if I'm asking, how committed am I? Well, 50%. What's it going to take to be 90, over 100%? And then it always gets done, right? It always gets done, but more importantly, the universe knows it needs to get done. And actually, because I've got so far, I might as well answer the final 3. I'll do it quickly. The next one, which is not about what I'm doing, it's about what is the universe doing. This one is, what is the universe's intention today? And this is a very, very powerful thing, because often it has nothing to do with me. It's just, what's the universe's intention? And the answer always comes. It'll always come. And then, what is my wish? And that's a wonderful one, because what is my wish means I can always open up whatever wish, and is opening the door to synchronicity to take place, right? The final one is one you would have heard many times, but it's always a goodie. Who am I? Those are my 8. When you start by just giving yourself a shower in the morning, but you're not showering with water, you're showering with spirit, how you finish you got a bonus day. You now got a bonus day, right? So it reminds me that my bonus life is made up of bonus days, and every day is a bonus day. So that's how I will then make sure that nothing's going to impact me negatively, because it's all done.
Such a beautiful answer, brother. And look, thank you, Ron. As usual, brother. Thank you. Obviously, is there any more questions over there? Yeah, you got it. Great. But before you do that, how do you finish the day?
How do I finish the day? I will reflect back specifically on 3 questions. 1 is why am I here, which was my first question. 1 is what was I committed to today? And 1 is who am I now?
Brother Roger. We got to hang out more.
By the way, I've done that since my late 20s. I did it actually since that that story I told you earlier. I'm like, I need to rethink who I am and remind myself who I am, because I'm going to go, it's too easy to go back down if you don't have the right community. I think as time has gone on, we're all lucky enough we're getting the right communities around us, but it's too easy to go down the slippery slope. Darkness will always get there before the light, right? So understanding that and knowing that means it's just an ongoing reminder. It's like being in a dream where you know it's a dream, but you keep on reminding yourself you're in the dream, right? Yeah.
You know, Richard Harrington, a great speaker from South Africa, beautiful guy, he was on the show many times. It reminds me, you know, inspiration is caught, not necessarily taught. And as I sit here and reflect upon what you're saying, I'm like, I'm going to have to watch this episode again. Right? I'm going to have to get, because again, inspiration is caught, not taught. So much coming. Question over here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for all the insights that you've been providing. Really, really high quality, amazing feedback. Love it. Thank you. It was about 18 months ago. I landed in Medellin, had no friends, didn't know anyone, decided to go to some networking events and discovered that at least my experience of networking really sucked. A whole lot of people just trying to sell each other shit that we didn't really care about. And I thought I probably can do better. And as soon as I had that thought, I said, well, it's probably my responsibility to go out and then do better. Otherwise, I'm just talking shit, right? So I decided to put on a speaking networking event. The idea was to bring a whole lot of...
Give us a name, brother. Come on, man.
Oh.
I know, but I wanted to say it so they hear
it. The name of the event is called Give It All. The basis of it was, I thought, if we bring speakers in to really give it all, not to pitch, just to give it all to the audience, and bring an audience that wants to give it all to our speakers, I think that would be a much better format. And the whole idea was for business creators, value creators, entrepreneurs, people to come and connect as humans again. And we launched it in Medellin. The very first event, it was a massive hit. After the 3rd event, everyone was saying it was the best event in Medellin. It was amazing. We run 7 events there. Left the city, everyone was very sad. And I said, well, all you have to do is go and do it. I'll give you the format. But no one took accountability for that. Decided to bring it here in Bali, and again have created a similar experience. Some of our speakers here and audience members are here as well. It's been amazing. The event is called Give It All, and my question to you is very simple. I've loved the stories that you've shared today, and I was wondering, would you care to come and headline at our launch of season 2?
Well, I did say no. I just say plug your business, but we'll take that one offline. Thank you for the cheeky tip. All right, next question. We got one or two. Yes, back to over this fella here. Thank you, my brother. You know I love you. Give it all. By the way, he's doing an incredible job. Thank you for coming, my brother.
But by the way, can I tell a quick story just on that?
Of course you can.
Yeah,
yes,
and for sure, like would be happy to hear more about it. But just the fact you took that initiative and said, okay, if it's not working for me, how do I do it different? I think that's fantastic. I have a funny story which happened here in Bali, where there's a particular very well-known business coach of women in business. She's actually got one of the leading networks of entrepreneurial women in California, and she came out here for one of her retreats, and we connected up through one of the networks that I'm in with Ben, and at the meeting she goes, oh, I'm thinking of going out from just doing the business networking, and I'm going to set up a new session, and it's going to be about love. And I say, so what's it called? And he says, is how entrepreneur women can find the love of their life. And I said, and you're doing this because you have lots of people asking you for this? And she goes, no, to be honest, I'm doing it because of what I need. Right? It's like I've been doing it for so long, and like I'm really successful as a woman entrepreneur, but like I just haven't found my love, right? And I said, and you really think that this event, what is gonna get you there? And she goes, yeah, and because we'll have great speakers, they're gonna have really great advice. I said, you do realize that this is an event for you, not for the person who's going to solve your problem. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, as long as you're saying that this event is called for the successful entrepreneurial woman that are looking for their love, you're just going to have a whole bunch of entrepreneurial women who are looking for their love. What you're looking for is the man who is perfect for the entrepreneurial woman. So why don't you run an event which is for the entrepreneurial man who's looking for love, and you're going to be surrounded by all these entrepreneurial men looking for love. So too much of the time we think we're trying to solve our own problem rather than being attractive to the solution, right? And I think that that's a really important thing to just keep in mind as a little gem as well.
That's a gem. That's a gem. All right, here, yeah, brother man.
Hi, Roger. For many years, I wanted to have a good mentor in my life, and I recently have had the opportunity to get a great mentor in my life. And I wanted to ask you, if you had the opportunity to speak directly to Bucky, what would your one question be for him?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And what I would ask him is, how am I doing? That's what I'd ask him. I really feel that a huge part of my mission in life is to finish what he started. And I think that he'd see that's what I'm trying to do. And maybe in how he answered that question would basically give me the extra nudge one way or the other to finish on that legacy.
Thank you, my brother Ross. So we'll give the microphone back to Guzman over here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, just over there. Yeah.
Thanks very much for all the great questions, everyone.
You know, apart from being unscripted, clearly, which is, for me, that's where the juice is, right? You know, the things that you shared tonight, some of which you haven't shared before, highly, highly, highly appreciative. Thank you very much. Highly, 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 highly appreciative of everyone who's turned up in person, right? Because again, as I said in before, it wasn't lip service. Me saying that, you know, while you're here, we create an energy like a field within a field. Let's call it that for the sake of argument, or just for the sake of calling it something. And that guides, in many ways, how this goes. And that's a huge reason why there's no episode that's ever the same. Right? Think about it. You know, so that's the reason why, whether there's 10 people or 50 or 140, I think has been the most we've had on site at one time, it's such a beautiful journey to go on. And there was a time where I tried to think about control. You know, I want to talk about this and this. You know, I had this, not a piece of paper, but probably was a piece of paper. And then one day I kind of realized, okay, her name is Matilda Dwi Lestari. Does anyone know her name? Matilda Dwi Lestari. Cool. So Matilda Dwi Lestari, doesn't matter, but she's about this tall, right? So I'm probably about the same height as her now. She won't mind me saying that, okay? So we had a friend in common, and she spoke to me about this incredible lady called Matilda Dwi Lestari, and she said, do you want to meet her? I said, of course I want to meet her. So this was episode number 50. We're up to 493 now, and it's about 50. And what we used to do was we have a speaker come in, they do a bit of a pitch, you know, blah, 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 beat their chest, whatever it is. This is what I do. Come and see me. Right? And you're there going like, great, I'll come and see you, or I won't. Then there'll be a Q&A after that section, right? So a mutual friend introduced us the week before. I had a cancellation where it happens. And I wasn't stressed because I knew at that point I was starting to get into the flow of all of this and realized that Bali has a way of doing things. And I was beginning not to force, but to allow. Not to come from, but to allow coming through. So I was sitting there next to this lady, Matilda Dwi Lestari, and we were getting on really well. And I said, you know what? next week that's going to be you, right? And then she looked me in the eye, look, you know when someone freezes up? Like, oh. And I said, and I felt it. I was like, oh, what's that about? So it's going to be you. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Blah, 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 blah. And then again, allowing things to come through you, not from you. I realized instinctively at that moment, because she was afraid of pitching. And I said, it's because about the pitching, isn't it? And she looked me in the eye like, how the hell did you know that? And then she goes, yeah. And then again, another one without even thinking, it didn't come through me at all. It wasn't me. I said, you know what? We'll do all Q&A. And then I knew, and she knew that she was going to do it. It was just a matter of her going, okay. Matilda Dwi Lestari is one member of the first female team to complete the 7 Summits Challenge. If you don't know what it is, I didn't really know until I was told. She's a mountaineer. So she climbed, one other person, the highest mountain on 7 continents, including Mount Everest. Finished. The first Indonesian female team. An amazing, amazing woman, not for the reasons that you might think. And so we did that show the following week, and it got such a response, not only from her, but from me. And she, again, was able to speak openly about something without feeling the need to be pitching anything. And it was such a beautiful feeling. And tonight's show reminded me of that.
You want me to go climb some mountains?
7 mountains, Roger, including Mount Everest at the end. And so check her out. They've just finished the book, Matilda Dwi Lestari. First Indonesian, her climbing partner was Frankie Dimitra, who is another amazing woman, right? 2 phenomenal women. Jokowi, the president at the time, personally acknowledged them, and the whole country got around her. And she is an amazing person, very giving, generous. Like, she is, yeah, just a beautiful human. If you get a chance to meet her, go and give her a hug. Right, and if she freaks out, just say, Rob told me to do it. I might get a phone call. So look, as we begin to come to the end of this wonderful episode, a few questions remain. One is, is there anything else that you would like to share that's coming up within you? That's one. Number 2, we spoke a bit about ProEd, and we spoke about the school, Pro Education. My kids go to that school. Lana, the founder, is a dear friend of both of us. And, the Genius schools, is there any plan that you can reveal? If not, it's okay. In terms of, because as you mentioned before, you're now the Genius group is now the controlling party in the school. So that's the other part. So one question is, anything you'd like to share that you haven't already? The second part is about that. And then obviously the third and final part would be, how can people contribute to Genius? All right. How can people contribute to the group? What are you looking for, if anything? So while you think about that, even though you don't need to, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. What a wonderful show. Remember, after this, we're going to do a photo, right? Remember, after this, you have a chance to connect with the people that you felt something when they spoke about what they did or who they are or what they can contribute earlier on. Might be our Give It All man over here. Might be Sonigo trying to figure out, I need AI in my business but don't know how it works. It might be our beautiful sister Saudi over here who's Malakat Hukum lawyers. What the heck? I need a lawyer, right? It might be Bujero. Thank you so much, my darling, for coming. And many of the others. By the way, the Genius team, could you stand up? So now, if you want to know anything about the upcoming summit or Genius group, if Roger hasn't got a chance to speak to you personally, that just might happen, slim possibility, please, 3 wonderful, I've had the joy to be kind of working with them and to spending a bit of time with them over the last week, especially in 2 different events. One was called SDS, which was the Solution Digital Summit that were on the show before. That went well. And also the I Am Creation Summit, where as a speaker and obviously the person who's supporting, I should be somewhere in Taya, Nusa Penida right now with all the speakers, but I'm here interviewing Roger, which I'm so happy I'm here. So thank you again for everybody. Remember, that's the team. If you want to speak to them about it, let them know. There is a QR code going around somewhere with a 50% off for the event 2nd and 3rd of October. So please go and use that. Bali Entrepreneurs 50. That will be the code that you use. Okay. All right. Ooh, round of applause for yourselves, Guzman, and all the team. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I'll be around obviously afterwards. Happy to answer any other questions anyone has and connect with you as well. I'm gonna answer the 3 in reverse order. So the third one, which was how can you be involved? How can you help? We actually are building an entire team in all areas, both our Genius Academy as well as with Genius City. And whatever your talents are, whatever your skills are, there's a place for you, right? This is a game. Everyone gets to play. So definitely connect with the team and we'll show you where that spot is, and we'll find a way for you to connect with that. And the best way to really get the different elements is to realize, and this is answering the second question around things like ProEd, Genius School, where's it all going? This summit is more than, we didn't do the summit to say, let's just have another summit in Bali. We did the summit because we said we need to have the moment in time where we can actually share all our plans for the future of Genius City in Bali, for what we're doing, how we're doing it. Some people will be the students, some people will be the investors, some people will be the entrepreneurs, some people will be the team. You'll hear about the beach clubs that we're launching. You hear about the programs we're running. We're going to hear about the things that we didn't even know we were going to be doing, where now we're doing it because we're now collaborating. We're now partners. All of that over the 2 days is going to be about the co-creation of the future. And you'll see that the style that we have is knowing, and this is my biggest philosophy in life, that the moment that you realize this whole game in this lifetime that we're in is about knowing that it is a jigsaw puzzle. It didn't come ready-made. But if your life is going to be a jigsaw puzzle, it's a good idea to know what the picture on the lid looks like, so you know what you're actually looking to actually put together. And so just getting clear on that picture on the lid, and you can get clear on what my picture is as it gets clearer, but we get clear on what your picture is as well. But it's not just a jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces are in the box. Absolutely guaranteed the pieces are not in the box. The pieces are out there, which is why it's not just a jigsaw puzzle, it's also a treasure hunt. And every step is a treasure hunt. Most of us don't know what the picture is. We don't know what jigsaw pieces we need. And when you start to realize, oh, that person's part of my jigsaw, right? Oh, that piece of information is part of the jigsaw. Oh, that person's got, the opportunity. They've got the financing. They've got the talent. And it's like, oh, I get it. I'm part of that person's jigsaw, right? Like, that's where the beauty of this whole magic comes in. And so this event that we're running, we're going to have panels on education, on environment, on entrepreneurship. We're going to have these interviews, not just with the likes of Stephen, but also with the likes of Sergey. So if you haven't seen what his vision is for the future of Nuanu, it's mind-blowing, right? And the kind of things he's doing is just like, wow, that guy's a genius. And at the same time, we've got the brains behind, Green School as well as with Genius School as well as with ProEd. We've got the mentors that are coming running the best communities in UK and US that are going to be there as well. So we're really bringing the best minds in for the future, and it's going to be, I think, at a level of conversation and a way of really spurring your thinking to what's happening here. That if there's one thing more than anything, it'll make you rethink the level to which you can live your life, and it will make you doubly grateful for the fact that you're here in Bali at a moment in time when we really are going to create history, right? We're going to win this world game, and we're going to have a way for the future where we become the examples that our great-great-grandchildren will be talking about, right? And it's going to be the right example. So just for those reasons, I hope to see you there, and in whatever form you're playing the game, whatever information you have, we'll have the full 2 days to be sharing on that. We're even going to do a tour of the campus, all those kind of things as well. So that's the second one. On the first one, which is what haven't I shared yet? Well, I know we've been talking quite often in different parts around the levels of of consciousness, right? Yeah. So if you don't mind, let me go through the levels as they are. We can show you the model of this as well. If you're part of our community, it's on our membership as well. But basically, it's a lighthouse. And the lighthouse actually is built on the lighthouse of Alexandria. And if you don't know the story of Alexandria, Alexandria is where the Emerald Tablet is buried. Emerald Tablet was the one thing that was the secret of secrets that the mentor of the son of the king of what was Greece at the time, called Alexander. The mentor was Aristotle, and Aristotle says your one job in life, your one mission, is to go find the Emerald Tablet and bring it back. And Emerald Tablet at that point was apparently out in India, which is why basically Alexander conquered all the land out to India and back. As soon as he got to India, he came back, and as the legend goes, he came back with the Emerald Tablet, and he became Alexander the Great. And he created Alexandria, which is the female version of Alexander on the Egyptian side of the Mediterranean. And he created this lighthouse, and the lighthouse was out of the riddle of the Sphinx. So, and I want to talk about the riddle of the Sphinx for a moment, because then you will understand why the lighthouse is what it is. The riddle, and by the way, the lighthouse was the symbol, like Statue of Liberty is a lighthouse, right? It's a symbol of adventure for anyone who goes on their journey. It's a symbol of safety for anyone who comes home. And the riddle of the Sphinx, you probably all have heard this, it's this story about how there was a very dangerous animal, which was a sphinx, which basically had a lion's head and had like wings, and was basically killing everyone who was coming down towards the village, and saying, I'm going to ask you a riddle, and if you can't answer the riddle, then you're not worthy to go back to your village, and I'll kill you, right? And so all these poor people were dying with this riddle, and eventually a little kid in the village was sent up and hoping for the best to come back, and so he got to hear, no one got to hear what the riddle was because they all died, but this little kid, he gets to hear this riddle, and the riddle goes, what walks on 4 legs in the morning, on 2 legs in the afternoon, and on 3 legs at night? Right? So I'm sure many of you have heard this riddle, right? And what's the answer? Man, right? And why? It's man? Because as a baby, you're on 4 legs, and then you're 2 legs as a man, and then you have a stick cane. So what that riddle, by the way, is a perfect example of secrets hidden in plain sight. Because the answer, which is I get it, it's like 4 legs, 2 legs, 3 legs, is hiding the actual real answer. Right? The real answer was the Pythagorean mystery schools, 3 levels, which also was in Plato's Republic as the 3 levels, which really are the 3 states of man. And these are sacred numbers in sacred geometry. So 4 is the symbol of the material world. 4 is the symbol of labor. 4 is working hard, and you'll be successful in life. Most of the world today is that consciousness of that base level, right? Which is why when I go through the first 3 levels of consciousness, you realize that's where most of the world is today. 2, which became Joachim Bays, which became basically, the pillars of Solomon's temple. And Solomon's temple is soul of man, right? It's the template of the soul of man. That was intelligence. So those that were able to lift themselves up to use the mind, to use intelligence, these are the next 3. It means you're not working hard, you're working smart, right? You get a whole different reality in the world. And the trivium, the 3, which is for those that lift to the highest level, that's spirit. When you look at the Lighthouse of Alexandria, and of course they had the Library of Alexandria as well, which was it was the ancient Google, but the lighthouse is 3 elements, which is 4, and then you'll see it's 2, and then it's 3. It's actually designed in that way as well, right? So with that story, now you get why there are 9 levels of consciousness, and why these 9 levels are 3 levels of 3, which are basically 3 prisms.
A little bit close to your mouth, the microphone.
So they're 3 prisms, right? So there's a foundation prism, which is where most people live. There is an enterprise prism, which we call it for entrepreneurs. It's when you can really start scaling at a very successful level. And then there's the alchemy prism, which is how all societies get created. And we're all living at one of these levels today. If I was to go through just very quickly the bottom levels, you'll identify yourself if you're one of these 3. And by the way, you say, well, aren't there 7 colors? If you wonder where the rainbow colors came from, by the way, the rainbow colors came from a book called Optics. Optics was written by Isaac Newton before he wrote Principia. and he was the first to take white light and put it through a prism and show it actually goes into colors. And of course, it goes into infinite colors, which is the ultraviolet spectrum. But he decided to just name it after the 7 colors of the 7 Indian chakras, because he himself was steeped in all the philosophy of the East, and he decided he was just going to basically plug those colors into the future of science, which is why we now get those 7 colors of the rainbow. And the reason we have 9 is below red, which is the lowest frequency, you have infrared, and above violet, which is the highest frequency, you have ultraviolet. So now you've got 9, which is the entire spectrum. So if someone's at infrared level, and maybe you're here at infrared level as well, we're going to treat it in terms of a dollar value, or value in, value out. It's a get mindset, which is in lack, because every day without fail, you end up with less money at the end of the day than the beginning of the day. I was in this for a lot of my life, where I was trying to run a business to make more money, and the problem was I myself in my personal life was going more and more negative, right? It's why I was so stressed when I ended up on my Hayabusa, right? Is because I was like, well, I have no money left over from anything, right? And this is a state of mind which comes from self-worth. So if you're at that point, which is like, I didn't have money to kind of cover my bills, let alone run my business, there's very specific strategies you can get into, which within a month gets you out of infrared, like forever. And I've had so many people, like if you go to the West, over 50% of everyone's at infrared level. They're all in debt. They're all working off credit cards. They're trying their best, but it has nothing to do with the economy and everything to do with the frequency and the steps that they're taking at that level. So if you just get that as an idea, it's like, oh, so this here is a pandemic, but it's not a health pandemic, it's a wealth pandemic that's taking place. And it is a choice. People don't even know they're making that choice, and there are ways out of it. And there's so many stories we have that people that shifted that. And the moment you shift that, the business shifts, right? And the business starts making money because you're now making money, right? The middle one, actually, there's even more people than infrared, which is called the victim. Because the victim is always someone else's fault. So a lot of the problems we're having in the world is this victim mindset that's being created, which actually is the opposite of victim is entitlement. It's the same thing, right? Which is like, no, someone else owes me, right? So this whole area down here, the world is suffering from it, and the world is sick from it, and we have to heal the world. And there's ways for us to do that. The second part above that is more dangerous, because the second part is not the victim, it's the survivor. It's someone who, this is red level, someone who month after month without fail has as much money as the month before, right? They're making just enough money to be in the same place. So if you have the same money in your bank account today that you had a year ago, you're at survivor level. No matter how much you turn on the tap, no water is coming in the basin because it all goes out, right? So it's not about how you turn on the tap more and earn more. It's about how do you actually put a plug in the basin so you actually now have something which is positive. You invest in Bitcoin, you can't help but go positive. It's just what happens because the fiat currencies are all taking you into infrared without you even knowing, right? So knowing this, it's like, holy cow, there's things I'm suffering from here I didn't even know I was suffering from. I'm trying to run a marathon and I didn't even eat right in the morning. No, how would I think I could have the energy to do that, right? So that's red level, right? And then above that is orange level. What is orange? Orange is the worker. It's the person who is now making money with their time. Right? Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. Every self-help talks about this. It's like, look, start by just earning your right in there. And of course, if you go to school, the entire education system, the traditional one, takes you from red level to orange level. So if we had time today to go through an exercise, because we have an assessment that shows you and so on, we would see that probably 80% of the people here, even if we're entrepreneurs, we're at one of those foundation levels right now. Even if we're starting our own business, we got to go back and work hard to make the business work, right? And that's because we learned that at school, right? How do you go from earning pocket money to having a job? That's what we learn. And that we never learned the enterprise prism, which is the next prism up. The difference of a player, which is basically someone who's working with their time a worker working with their time, to a player that's working with their talent, that's a whole different thing. It's nothing to do with your time anymore. And if you're self-employed and you get to that yellow level, this is where you start realizing these are all chakras, right? So basically willpower, which is yellow, solar power. I will do this. I can always tell someone at yellow level because they have a big to-do list, right? It's just every day they wake up with this to-do list. I've got to do all these things. And if there's a problem, it just adds to the to-do list as well. And it's the same to-do list that you had 20 things on it. It was 20 things a year ago, just different things. And so it's always about Captain Underpants. I got to solve it. I've got to make this thing happen. And someone at yellow level is like a player, playing a guitar. People come, you love the fact that they appreciate your music. But the moment you stop playing, the music stops. So if you're at that level, you can never go higher, and you're limited by your ability to impact the world, because this isn't just income, it's impact as well. And the difference of yellow and green is 3 inches. It's like the difference of your solar plexus and your heart, because green level ask totally different questions. So whereas yellow level is a player, green level is a performer. You can stop playing and the music keeps going, right? This is the person who knows how to scale an enterprise, scale a community. And the difference is everything, because the yellow level is asking, how do I make money? The green level is asking, how can I help other people make money? So it's everything through partnerships, right? So everything we've been doing has been green level. It's like, how can I help this person make money? That person, what would it take that would make you motivated enough that I'm helping you make enough money to do this? That's green level, right? Like, not how do I do things with a to-do list, but how can I help you do things, which is a not to-do list. It's like everything on your to-do list has got a name next to it and it's not yours. And this allows you to work on your business, not in your business. So we've all seen these different elements. But why this is so important is that there's books like 4-Hour Workweek, which is perfect if you're yellow level, but you're going to outgrow it at some point. There's books like Good to Great, which is perfect at green level, but it's definitely not going to allow you to go out and build a city and generate hundreds of millions, because that's blue level. And blue level is conductor. And the conductor doesn't hold an instrument. The moment that something's off tune, he doesn't go and play the violin. He goes and finds someone else who can play it, right? Someone like Sergey is operating at blue level. I've learned over many years to figure out how to go to blue. And when I was in my company at green level, and then I lost everything, I made sure next time I came back, I stepped in at blue level by understanding this system at that point. The conductor is the one who understands how to invest in performers, and performers want to play with the best conductors, so they get attracted to them. If I'm yellow level and I want to go to an investor at blue level to get money, me just going from yellow to blue isn't going to work, because they're not looking for players. They're looking for performers. But if I can help a performer by being their player, by helping them to basically ignite their genius, they'll be making more money for the blue level conductor. And now I'm going to be of value to the blue level conductor, because the green level performer is going to say, this is my right-hand man or my right-hand woman. But the blue level as a conductor, this is the voice. So if you ever read 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, it's all green level. This is what you do at green level. But then Stephen Covey then wrote the 8th habit, which is your voice. Finding your voice is blue level, where everyone else does everything for you. They get attracted to you. And then from blue level, that's where all the money in the economy moves. And the people that know how to do that, they're the ones that basically have the resources to then go to the next level up. But most of them don't go to next level up. The next level aren't the people on the stage, which is the player, the performer, and the conductor. They aren't the people in the audience, which is the victim, the survivor, and the worker. They're the people who are creating the theater. And so if you go one level up, you're now at indigo level, and this is the person who is the trustee of the whole theater. Someone like Warren Buffett or someone like Richard Branson, they can make millions just by someone using their brand, because they're trusted for what they believe in. They're not thinking anymore in millions, they're thinking in hundreds of millions. That trustee is like the trustee of the theater. Everyone trusts them because they are there doing what they're doing. What we're doing to some extent with the Genius City is a trustee for the future societies that exist. That enables you to then actually get to making the music, which is the next level up. Next level up is now Violet, and that's the composer. We are now today playing music, most of us, with compositions which are out of tune. This is the people that make the laws. This is the people that decide the taxes. If you look at poverty is just a bad composition, right? And we're all playing that music, and we're wondering why more people aren't actually getting wealthy. This is the reason why. But we have the opportunity to now earn our way up to be the composer. The political system don't put the composers as the ones that earn the right. They make sure there's yellow level politicians that knew how to get into power that now are creating compositions they don't know how to compose. We were in times of the past, like during the Renaissance, when it was the composers like Medici family, like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, that were the ones that were composing the future. We have that same opportunity now, which is very unusual, but that's the exciting thing, and we can now do it on a global scale. And then the final thing, if you do that job well, people like Steve Jobs, they're known for this, people like Nelson Mandela, they do this. The final one, which is now Ascension, which is ultraviolet, is when you go back to the light, which is why it's called the lighthouse. That final one at the top is called the legend, right? Because if you've got a map, you don't even have to actually use words. You can just use the symbol. That's the legend. Many people, they have to die before they become the legend. Guaranteed, any legend today, they are on the verge of dying, which is why they have got bodyguards, because the biggest risk to them is of death, because they're already a legend to someone who already believes the opposite. This is why we're seeing assassinations today in the world, right? Because there are living legends, whether you agree with them or not, they have massive followings because they already stand for a symbol of our time. And everyone in this room, you have that opportunity today in this world we live in to ascend up the lighthouse to that level. And the reason I share with that is because what is igniting your genius is turning on the light in the lighthouse. Every one of us is a lighthouse. Every one of us. Even the word human comes from color being, right? We're the whole rainbow. And we came from light. We're going to go back to light, but we might as well shine with every color while we're here on this planet. And this is the whole point of the education system that we have, is that when you light yourself up, you then are able to light others. And that's the only point to even be on this planet. So that's a little bit on the levels.
Wow. I have no words. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Everybody, again, let's stand on our feet. Another round of applause for Roger. Thank you so much, mate. See you next week, everybody. Thank you very much indeed.